That's what they say. You get it within a couple of years, you get it, and then all of a sudden, you got it.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck they are, but it's not bad.
I could hear it the other day. I heard it.
Stuffiness?
Yeah, I heard you.
Yeah, I had it for like 4 days. I've had stuffiness.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, when I work out, I feel great. The way I can really tell, like, the way I judge whether or not I should even work out is when I get in the sauna, in the cold plunge. If I feel tired and weak when I'm in there, then I know something's going on. It's not as simple as allergies.
So I thought for 10 years I had the Austin allergy. For 10 years. It was so bad. I'd go out to dinner, even when we moved out to Fredericksburg. We come into Austin. I thought it was Austin. Seriously, I like, Austin has given me this. We go out to dinner, start eating, and then my nose, my eyes, everything and I have to always excuse myself, always have to have tissues in my back pocket. Then I got my teeth done, which we talked about, I think, the last time I was here. And Maverick, my periodontist, he did one of these 360 MRIs. He says, man, you've got some low-level infection here. And that could be responsible for a whole bunch of stuff. Now, I'd had hearing aids for 5 years. So when he did the initial extraction, I think I took 1 or 2 shows off, and then I went back in the studio, put my headphones on, and like, whoa, I thought I'd hit something, a volume knob or something. Came back.
Your hearing came back.
Because this was infected, and it was basically clogging up my sinuses, and that was affecting the hearing. Yeah.
Having a mouth infection like that's very dangerous, isn't it?
People have no idea how important oral health is. It's really, really critical. And also, I feel better because, I'm not fighting infection continuously.
That's crazy. So how did it all start? Like, what was going on with your teeth that like made all these infections?
I had a bad start in life when I was 2 or 3. We were living in Uganda, and my parents would put me to sleep with a chocolate cookie. So I had kind of a bad start, and I had a lot of work. I had, just tons of fillings on my baby teeth. Everything was messed up. Then I had the big outboard headgear, which really traumatized me for life, taking that to school. It was like I was one of those guys. Oh yeah, it was bad. And about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more, I went to the dentist here in Austin. And, he's like, we really got to start doing stuff. We got to start looking at repairing. And then this dentist started hitting on me and texting me. And, I'm like,
great. Guy or girl?
Guy.
Damn.
No. So, and I knew that there was a Pandora's box
How
in there.
wild is that? Like, what a risky move.
It was so dumb. Like,
you're a married straight guy. And it's like, I think I can get him, though.
He can be on our team.
That is such a man move. That's such a thing that men would do. It's so stupid.
He's like, I'm here with some buddies of mine, sending a picture. I'm like, no. So
They're all shirtless and fucking wearing cowboy hats.
Yeah. I'm not going back. I'm good. And then Tina and I, we got together. We moved out to Fredericksburg, and she's real big on, preventative anything. Her car has the oil, everything on time. Everything's all set. And her teeth, of course, are impeccable. And she's
that sounds like a good fit for you.
Totally.
You need an organized lady.
I had a credit score of 350.
Oh, no.
And I didn't have credit card. I was just cash. I didn't care. I had cash flow. Everything's good. I don't care. She straightened me out. Oh, yeah. Oh, big time. We
disorganized men very much need organized women.
Yes.
You just can't have one that turns into your mom.
Oh, no. That was my first wife, and that
does
was wrong.
happen with some of them. Some of them, when you give them the reins and they start telling you what to do, all of a sudden, then it becomes very non-sexy.
I will say props to my first wife. She kept me. I was the height of my show business fame, MTV. She kept me out of trouble. I did not participate.
She was a good mommy.
She was a good mom. And she's a good mom to our daughter, so for sure.
Well, you change, they change. You need a different kind of a mom.
Things change. Things change. So then, I went through
crazy,
it. Yeah, it was like, and that's also when I stopped smoking, because Maverick called me up. He said, hey, man, I'm going to be operating on you in a week. Could you do me a favor and stop putting fire in your mouth? And I've been smoking weed and tobacco since I was 15. And I quit at that moment, I haven't. I didn't ever. I mean, I vape like a crazy horse, but
Well, that's not good, is it?
well, that's a question.
This is you and I've gone over this, and we will go back to it.
It's a nicotine delivery device. Yes,
right.
That's what it is.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, sure.
But so just cleaning out the infections, what was going on that was fucking up your hearing? It was like the whole area was inflamed?
Yeah, it's right by your sinuses, and so that, everything's connected. If you hold your nose, you can hear,
Right.
you hear differently. So
Right.
whatever it was doing, and it literally just a couple days after he extracted more than that, but after he extracted those teeth, it just came back. And I didn't have horrible hearing loss, but it was enough where I was sick of saying, "I'm sorry, darling, what'd you say? I'm sorry."
Right.
And at the moment you get to like, I didn't hear her, I'll ask her later, that's when I went, no, I got to get hearing aids. I don't want to, and it's one of the biggest reasons men get depressed is when they can't hear and they kind of withdraw, and it's
Really?
It's a real crisis. Yeah, anyone, you need to go. If you think, just have your ears tested anyway. Why not? I mean, you get your eyes tested, get your ears tested, get your teeth taken care of.
So if they find out your ears are not good, do they ever check for infections?
No,
Because it seems like now you should get in the medical books.
Thank you. He's been writing a paper on this for this very reason, and it's only because he did the 360 MRI that he saw it, and he also knew what to look for. It's his expertise. He's when I met this guy, I was like, he's young. He's like in his 30s. I'm like, so why did you choose this profession? He says, I like operating. I really love doing that stuff. I'm like, okay, you sound cool. And it turns out he's a pilot, so we become friends. But yeah, he says people have no idea. And so he has been working on a paper to publish about this very thing. It's just not known. I talked about it on the podcast, and people from all over the world like, really, man? I've been having hearing issues. Get an MRI. Get a 360 MRI of your head.
This episode is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. The hiring process is stressful. There are so many different things to consider, and on top of it all, you need to get it done quickly. It's like when you're trying to find a decent contractor for a home renovation project or even a new primary care doctor. You don't want just anyone. You probably want a person who knows their shit and will take your concerns seriously, but also need to find them, like yesterday. If you're an employer struggling to find that perfect fit, I've got one word for you: ZipRecruiter. They work fast to find you great talent. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Rogan. They're so fast, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter find a quality candidate within the first day. That might be why hiring site employers prefer ZipRecruiter the most based on G2 ratings. They get the work done without wasting your time or money. So relax and let ZipRecruiter speed up your hiring. See for yourself. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/Rogan to try it right now for free. That's the same price as a genuine smile from a stranger, a picture-perfect sunset, or a cute dog running up to you and licking your hand. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/Rogan. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. It's an interesting subject because candy and sugar is really what caused all this horrible tooth decay in people. And the goofy fucking solution that someone came up with along the way was putting fluoride in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Which is so goddamned insane that you're taking a neurotoxin and you're putting it in the water. But again, like I don't want to take even a political position on this. I just want to look at this. I want to look at this from a human lens. There is something that people do where even if something is obviously stupid, if it's a part of a system and there's enough, air quotes, experts that have endorsed this, regardless of the fact that we've seen time and time again throughout history that experts are compromised, you could have a court case for a murder and bring in experts that will tell you he definitely did it and experts that tell you he definitely didn't do it. So we know this for a fact. But still, people argue on the side of the experts. And I've seen this about fluoride, and it's so mind-boggling. There are conclusive studies that show a direct correlation between high levels of fluoride in the local water and lower IQs. And it's a neurotoxin. We know it's bad for you in large doses. And yet there are fucking people out there with college degrees who read the New York Times who think they're sensible people that will get angry if you want to remove this neurotoxin from water, because look at all the strides it's done in preventing tooth decay. Yeah, and you just want to say, hey, man, fuck you. Well, this is stupid.
I went to dinner at Mitch's house. I call him.
I'm a little upset.
No, it's okay because we're sitting down. It's my wife, his wife. You know, he has one of those houses right on the airport where this plane rolls out of the garage, out of the hangar.
Oh, he's out of touch.
Exactly. I paid for that. I'm like, I paid for that hangar. And we're sitting down and we're having a good time. You know, we're talking about stuff. He says, so what do you think about fluoride? I said, should not be in the water. He's like, you're wrong. You know what? And this is only a couple of years ago. And now he's come back and he said, oh man, Did he
apologize?
Yeah, of course. This was drilled into my head. But what I understand is fluoride is a byproduct of aluminum production. And a lot of this, they had this fluoride waste product, basically, they needed to get rid of. And from what I understand, it was Alcoa, I could be wrong, but I think it was Alcoa who made these deals, and who knows how they set that up with the American Dental Association, and that's how fluoride got into our water, and we got this kind of psyop of it's good for you. I knew it was wrong in 2000, and there was a book that came out called Legacy of Ashes. It was written by a guy called Tim Weiner, who used to be New York Times. And it was all about the CIA. And it's a great book because my uncle is in it many times. Donald Gregg, he's still with us. He's 95 or 96. And he was really high up in the CIA. He was, part of OSS back in the day. And in it, it talks about how the agents would go in, fluoridate the enemy's camp water so they could go in at night and they were docile and they could pull them out and they could kind of attack them. And I said, Uncle Don, is this true? He says, yeah, pretty much how I remember it. I'm like, well, of course. So the neurotoxin has been used in actual warfare in the water.
To make people docile.
Yeah, docile. And
the argument is so dumb because, my friend Eddie Bravo had a great point. He said, when you get toothpaste, do you ever see toothpaste that says fluoride free? Why would they say that and advertise it?
Tom's.
If fluoride wasn't bad for you. Why would they do that? Why would that be a selling point? Mm-hmm. If we've always looked for fluoride in toothpaste, my whole life. Mm-hmm. Crest, fluoride, got it. When you're going through the CVS and you're grabbing stuff and throwing it in your bag. Yeah. It's always fluoride. You're always looking for fluoride. That's what kills the fucking germ. I don't want cavities. I don't have to go to the dentist. Yeah. Give me that fluoride. But they're selling toothpaste without fluoride. Why is that? And the guy who was saying it to, had this look on his face, he was trapped. He was just trapped. So you don't think fluoride is good for you? It's one of those things. That's just what he just said. No, just brush your fucking teeth. Yeah. It's really that simple.
As a kid, did you get those trays at the dentist? Do you remember those?
What are the trays?
It would be they'd say, we're going to do fluoride treatment on you.
Oh yeah, they did that.
And it was it's fruity. And this gunk would be dripping back in your throat. Yeah, you're gagging with this horrible. It's that's not.
And you go to school,
Hawaiian
you
punch.
Get a D in English because you're fucking stupid.
Pretty much the story of my life, Joe.
Yeah, it's so bad. It's really bad for you, and it's not necessary. And we're being co-opted by something and someone. And I think we looked this up on the podcast, Jamie. Didn't it come out of there was some town in Texas, I believe, that had naturally fluoridated water, which occasionally, just
we have it in the hill country. The water is definitely naturally fluoridated.
Yeah, there's natural levels of different minerals, and there's different stuff that in this one area had a fairly high natural level of fluoride, and these people had great oral hygiene. Whether or not that was a convenient study that they pointed to or a convenient case they pointed to make the argument to get rid of all that fluoride, there's you got to look many layers into all this kind of stuff because they've been throwing fluoride in the water for how long and how much money has been spent throwing fluoride in the water and how many people have built mansions and have fucking, Mercedes-Benz they're tooling around them because they've been throwing fluoride in the water, and that's a deep system to try to untangle after 50, 60 years of doing this.
It's the petrochemical industry. That's where all our medicines come from. And I was watching the Grammys. and I don't really.
Why? What's wrong with you?
I know. Well, I usually watch for the Satan segment. I would say, "Oh, okay, there it is. There's the Illuminati. There's
There's always one.
There's the. They didn't have one. They
That's
had
crazy.
Beautiful women
Maybe
in nice
'cause
dresses.
Trump
and
is
everything.
president. They're a little nervous.
Oh no. Presidents are important for the culture.
It's very important for the Satan
But
people.
they're in trouble.
Yeah, you
they're
don't
in
have,
trouble.
like, a God
Jesus is
fearing-
making a
yeah.
comeback, man. No,
Can't-
they're in trouble
you gotta
there.
hide now. Go back into the
And-
basement of Comet Pizza.
And
Place that doesn't have a basement, by the way.
we're reliably informed. And I hadn't really watched network television a lot, and there's a lot of commercial breaks. But the first 10 all had a pharmaceutical product which I'd never heard of, a name I can't remember, and side effects literally included death. I'm like, what is going on with this? And like, ask your doctor. I'm like, do I have this? Should I have this? Do I want this? I mean, is this going on with me? And people are all happy in the commercials. They're like, look, my skin looks good and I'm happy and I have a beautiful family. It's almost like we used to, sell cars. Now they're just selling the pharmaceuticals.
Well, that will be an interesting thing if RFK Jr. gets in place. If RFK Jr. gets in place and they stop this advertising on, we are one of 2 countries on earth that allows New Zealand, and New Zealand's far more restrictive than us. We should be really restrictive about this because advertising works. And there's advertising that doesn't bother me at all, like Chevrolet Corvette. Boom, boom, okay, I want one of those. It's okay. It's fine. But when it can give you bloody diarrhea and suicidal ideology.
Anal leakage.
Yeah, and you're just fucked up in the head and you're depressed and like you don't know why, but now your zits are gone. Like, hey, slow down.
Yeah.
That was not in that commercial with the lady dancing in the field with her child and the people at the picnic and they're all smiling and laughing and having a good time together.
Yeah.
That looked like fun. Like where's that part?
Well, of course, they've tried all kinds of things to stop this, and First Amendment comes up, although we have stopped tobacco advertisements, and there's all kinds of things that have been done throughout the years. But what happened with television is all the money, I mean, really 60, 70, maybe 80% of all the advertising income is from pharmaceutical companies. That's why there's also no reporting. Like, we're not going to bite the hand that feeds us.
That's the real problem.
That's
the
right
real
there.
problem. The real problem is that these news organizations are not independent.
Not just news, everything.
Right, everything. Yeah. They're not independent. Like even television shows. Like, could you imagine if, let's say, a network has a prominent news organization and that news organization is very popular and it's a big part of their ratings and it's a reliable source of information for, people that believe them. Mm-hmm. And they're sponsored by pharmaceutical drug companies, but then they also have a crime show on. And this crime show wants to do a thing about an evil guy who promotes a vaccine that winds up killing a bunch of people, and they hide the data, and then they arrest him at the end of the show. Like, no fucking way.
That's not getting made. No green light for you.
No. That's
not going to happen.
No. You got to turn that guy into a meth dealer. That's a meth dealer now. Let's just do a couple of rewrites, simple rewrites of the script.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is a bad guy from Guatemala. Let's come. Let's fucking. It's definitely not from here. He's definitely not from Moderna. And they definitely aren't working in conjunction with the government to develop this thing, and the government's profiting off of it. That's not real.
Well, I say that we're in the season of reveal. I've been saying this for about a year now, and it's really happening real quick with what we're uncovering and starting to understand. I haven't seen your talk with Mike Benz.
Dropped some fucking seeds yesterday. If we're in the season of flowers, he's blooming today because he was so nervous yesterday. Jamie was talking about it before. Like, he was making all these tweets like they were going to kill him. Probably, it's probably been discussed.
Well, I think it's way too far beyond. And I think, I look at Leave It to Beaver, I call her, who's the new press secretary. She's 27 years old.
Oh, yeah, she's good, though.
She's fantastic. She's younger than my daughters.
It's a gal. I don't think you should say Leave It to Beaver.
I'm sorry. That's that's how I remember her last name. All right, Caroline Leavitt. I think it's Leavitt. Thanks, Joe. Thanks. Thank you. So she...
Because we're old enough to remember when beaver was a vagina. Most kids are like, I don't even know what the fuck they're talking about.
Leave it to beaver? What are you talking about?
What a dumb name for a vagina, a beaver. Because dudes didn't really have any derogatory names for dicks. It's just dick is the worst one. Like, your dick. Put your dick away, you fucking weirdo. You know what I mean? It was like, but beaver.
Well, we only had pecker.
Yeah.
like
but Pecker's kind of cute.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a
it's just a Pecker.
Yeah. There's no like real bad names for Dick other than Dick.
But she comes out and she does this whole list of USAID, which is very little money. And I think our president is very smart because he's showing us things that enables people like Mike Benz and you and I to have these conversations about, because it's not ideological that USAID, which is not USAID, this is like one of these psyops right up top, like
Right.
Federal Express is not owned by the government, Federal Reserve is not owned by the government, USAID is the Agency for International Development, not aid. And we see on television, there goes another pallet onto the C-130. Aid, U.S. aid from the American people.
Oh, we're being nice.
Yeah, we're being nice to people.
We should be nice. We're the nice people of the world.
But what these, and I'm sure Mike talked about this, like LGBTQ, these dance parties and things. If you look at these countries, like these are countries where we want to keep them away from Russia, overthrow the incumbents.
Yes.
And the way to garner support is to. And I really love how they added the Q. That just became so clear to me all of a sudden. If you sponsor LGBTQ, these are outcasts. These are people who feel that they've been marginalized. Then you add a Q, like, oh, wait a minute, I can be queer. I'm different. I'm odd. You bring more people in. Then you can bring the anarchists in.
You can get A. They have the A's in
Oh, yeah,
now,
the
which
A's,
is
I's,
so crazy.
Everything.
But the A's don't even have a dog in the fight.
But that's the point. You want them to come to the party.
Yes.
Come to the party. You're allowed
Right.
to the party.
That's
and
why
then
it's so long now.
And I saw this, AFD in Germany, this is the extreme right party, and they wanted, to slow or remove immigration. And so now there was a protest against the AFD. They're getting ready to vote now, and there's 100,000 people there. And I'm like, wow. I thought, because I know people in Germany, I have friends in Germany. They really are sick and tired of this immigration stuff. So where are these people coming from? And in the news report, right up front, there's a dude in a blonde wig with eyeshadow saying, we just want to get along. Can't we just be diverse? I'm like, that's the PSYOP.
Yes.
He's talking about himself. So he wants to feel included, which, by the way, in America, you can do whatever you want, call yourself whatever you want. People really don't have an issue with that. But they've just taken this and abused these people into their political agendas all over the world. And, of course, it sparked something here in the States. If you look, the Democrat Party, they're going to die on this hill. They're still like, oh, no, LGBTQ, they're taking away our rights, because they know they can mobilize people to do that. And then you can throw in Palestine and all kinds of people.
Did you see the
this
city
group.
council thing in Worcester, Massachusetts yesterday that's gone viral today?
No, which one is
Jamie,
that?
did you see it?
I'm seeing it right now on Twitter.
Oh, yeah,
No.
yeah. Pull this bitch up.
I haven't seen
there's a compilation of these people like absolutely freaking out. The best one's the compilation, if you can find the compilation. But it's all these LBGT people show up at this city council meeting to say there's like a trans genocide. It's one of those, dude. We're gonna round up in concentration camps. Yeah,
5 minutes long. I'll
yeah.
just
Just
play
give
the
me
beginning.
start from the beginning. Give me.
Can you wrap up, please?
Yes, I can. If you say that you're afraid of Trump and that's why you don't want the city to be a safe space for trans people, you better prepare for trans people to make this a very unsafe space.
Oh, brother.
I'm shaking right now. I don't want to be here.
Please.
I'm sorry, am I taking too long pleading for my life?
You remembered how many children I have and that 2 of them are trans.
There it is.
Yeah.
I speak as both the B and the T in the LGBT.
He's both.
I'm multiply disabled. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder that causes me immense physical pain. I'm on the autism spectrum, and I have narcolepsy, and I couldn't drive myself here, so I had to hide from my driver that I was in drag, which is not an easy thing to do in drag.
I do not want to be here. It's
Whoa.
my day off. I do not want to be in your DMs. I do not want to be in your email inboxes. I do not want my creativity writing diss tracks like Kendrick. I don't want to spend an hour applying glitter on my face so that you will hear and see me.
What?
I want you to listen to me.
Let us remember that the
No, that's
Well,
enough.
so-
It's like, you made me put glitter on my face, you piece of shit. because everyone knows when you go to court, you have to have glitter.
These
on your
people,
face.
these people need hugs. They need
They need
love.
love.
I
They
pray
need
for
love.
them.
Yeah.
The biggest way to psychologically manipulate people is, or there's three ways: old people, puppies, and children. And the whole, and I followed this. It started around 2012, not coincidental. When you know about Smith-Mundt, the Smith-Mundt Act. So that's, you know, there was a law that was put in since the Church Commission. You can't propagandize the American people. Defense Department and others went to the government and said, well, you know, like, we're on the internet now. We might accidentally, you know, push some propaganda on people. It started with bullying in schools. I know, because John Dvorak and I, we followed it on No Agenda. Started with bullying. Then it was we needed anti-bullying laws. And we're literally going like, what happened to sticks and stones will break my bones, or punch the bully in his nose? No. Then the teachers, and then we got hate speech laws, not actually laws, but, you know, hate speech punishments. And this kept building up until you guaranteed parents through the American Medical Association, the Pediatric Society, all of these different trade groups, that if you don't transition your child, that child will commit suicide.
Right.
And that is a horrible thing that they've done. Think about these parents who may or may not one day wake up and go, what have I done? What have I done?
Well, someone was talking about this the other day, that this is the real problem, is that so many parents have committed to doing this to their children, and they cannot face the reality of what they've done, and so they're going to dig their heels in forever, and
vote
gonna
Democrat.
talk about gender affirming care. And,
Yes.
yeah. But the thing is, that's a small percentage of people in the general population.
Thank God.
And thank God. But they're overrepresented in the fact that they make it their whole life. And so they're very loud and very vocal, and then they become a political beach ball. I talk about beach balls.
I heard you
at the
talk about
concert.
that with Bridget.
That's what
Yeah,
it is. It's
totally.
the political beach balls at a concert. They chuck them up in the air, so we always have something to fight about. So we're not paying attention to like the USAID stuff, or a lot of the stuff that's like really important. And this is just a part of this tangled web of psyops that's been running our culture. I mean, I would say our government, but it's everything, right?
Culture, yes.
So it's the government has established its hooks in us and put fear and law and rules, and the more law and the more rules, the better, because the more likely you're going to break a few of them, and then you're going to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And they've got these fucking things everywhere, and it's just allowing them to run this mafia business. And there's a bunch of people that are reasonable, educated people that have Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah.
Like they don't want to admit that even their people, their cherished heroes like Obama, was a part of this.
Big
and that
part.
all these people that you think of as progressive Democrats, they were all a part of it. And fortunately today, we have the convenient access to YouTube instantaneously, where you could watch Obama in 2003 say some very MAGA things. Or you could watch Hillary Clinton go more MAGA than MAGA.
About deportations.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. And that if you stay, you have to pay a stiff fine. I mean, the whole thing it's cyclical, right? Like, this is why the left is now supporting war and censorship. It's not real. It's not that there's a good group of kind, compassionate, educated people and a bunch of fucking buffoons who are racist who want to bring that back to Confederate flag.
Yeah.
That's not what's going on.
No.
There's people that are nice, kind people that also understand the value of hard work and reality and kindness and also sternness and rule of law, and you can't just let violent criminals out in the street. And hey, maybe you should do some actual rehabilitation with the fucking billions of dollars you make in the prison industrial complex when there's no rehabilitation, like no real concerted efforts to completely change these people and studies.
It's a mess.
It can be done. It can be done, and it probably could be done with psychedelic drugs. They probably can do some things with people, especially non-violent criminals. that are trying to figure out, like, why have I been stealing from people my whole life? Like, what the fuck is wrong with me that unless they're a legitimate psychopath, they have no empathy. There's people that can be kind of woken up to why they're in this horrific pattern of continual abuse in their life, and there's ways to do it. And Rick Perry has been really like brave in this case because he's a former Republican governor of Texas, and
that's right.
And now he's advocating for ibogaine therapy, particularly for veterans, for guys who come over, they've seen the most horrific shit, their brain is in a shambles, and they want to do something, and they have no help in these pills that just dull their mind and make them feel detached from reality, and all these fucking antidepressants and things they give them, and they want to fucking end their life. And they can go and get therapy that it cures 80% of them with one dose, and it's like 95% with 2 doses. It's fucking nuts, man. And we've been hiding this because of the sweeping Schedule I Drug Act of 1970 that was put in place directly by Nixon to go after his political opponents. It was directly put in place to demonize the anti-war movement and demonize the Civil Rights Party and the Black Panthers and anybody who was a problem with the government. So they just said, let's just make all these things that these people are taking on a regular basis completely illegal. Not only just Schedule I, like with no medical use whatsoever, things that people have been using for thousands and thousands of years. And it's all the same shit. It's all psyops. It's all psyops. Have you ever heard of the audience effect? It is a psychological theory that our behavior changes when we know we're being watched. And here's the thing, we are being watched. When you use the internet, data brokers watch and record everything you do online, even if you're using a private browser. But you don't have to become a slave to the digital surveillance state. You can free yourself with ExpressVPN. With ExpressVPN, 100% of your online activity is rerouted through secure, encrypted servers that hide your IP address. That means you can get to use the internet with real freedom and privacy. It's incredibly fast, it doesn't slow down your streaming or downloading, and it lets you connect instantly to secure servers in 105 countries around the world. ExpressVPN is easy to use. It takes just one click, and it works on all of your devices, even smart TVs. Use it on up to 8 devices at the same time and protect your whole family with just one subscription. And the best part? Podcast listeners can get 4 extra months of ExpressVPN for free at expressvpn.com/Rogan or by tapping the banner. That's expressvpn.com/Rogan or tap the banner. If you're watching on YouTube, you can get 4 free months by scanning the QR code on screen or by clicking the link in the description.
Well, the number one thing that happened around that time, of course, during Kennedy is we realized that television was a big force. Television and radio.
Oh, yeah, they got that handsome guy.
And they got and if you listen to some of the debates, like it would sound on the radio like Nixon did better. I mean, it's amazing how this worked between radio and television, but then newspapers, we know the intelligence agencies were all writing stories. I mean, you look at CNN, you still see ex-CIA guy shows up. A little story. When I saw you sitting at the inauguration, and I think I texted you, I'm like, dude, I can't believe it. I see you sitting there. You're texting me American flag emojis and stuff. Like, and you and Trump, I'm like, oh, look at him. He's in a tuxedo. And I thought, so my life, in 1983, I was still a teenager, and I grew up in Amsterdam, socialist country. The airwaves were controlled by the government. It was horrible. It was almost like Russia. Your phone was a gray phone, and that was your phone. You couldn't get a different phone. It was illegal to unplug it from the wall. And I was doing pirate radio at a place called Radio Decibel in Amsterdam, and we were playing.
You were Christian Slater.
In a way. In a way.
That movie?
In a way. Oh, yeah. Yeah. What was that called? What was that movie called?
I don't know.
Maybe it was called Pirate Radio?
But it was crazy. They were trying to arrest him. Remember?
Well, so we all got arrested several times. And we were playing 12-inch imports from your Chicago warehouse.
You got arrested several times?
Oh, yeah. They would always come and arrest us.
How'd they find you?
We literally had the station name on the door. People would come around. We'd be smoking weed or hanging out. we weren't making any money. We were basically paying to do it. And we had this huge antenna on the
Did
roof.
this ever come up when you got hired by MTV? Did they get nervous about that? Like, did they have to do a
No.
background check? Say, this guy's got a record.
No, I'll remind me to tell you my USAID story in a minute. So no, but this is 1983, and I felt it was so. First, I was a gawky, awkward kid. I got tics. I got the wrong hair. I got the wrong moped. Everything's wrong. But on the radio, people are like, "Wow!" And I was doing it in English. You can do that in Amsterdam. People are like, "Wow, it's so cool! You got that black guy on your station." I'm like, "I'm black? Oh, cool!" So I was John Holden, the 23-year-old black guy who drives a Harley. But the point was, it was liberating. I could speak my mind, and everything felt so stifling. Now we go forward, 1993. And I'm on MTV. I'm the hair of Generation X. I'm on Z100 in New York, #1 station. And I'm also on the internet. I'd set up MTV.com. It was very, very slim. We had dial-up modems at the time. And it was so restrictive. They let me do my own material, but they had censorship called a line producer. Like, oh, now we got to burn that segment. You said something bad about Richard Marx. Oh, you said something that was off color about Madonna. Oh, we can't do that. The radio was the same. It was, like read the liner card, and then always end with Z100. And there was a guy at Sun Microsystems in San Francisco, and he said, "Adam, I see what you're doing with MTV.com on the web. That's cool. I'm going to send you a computer." So he sends me this big Sun Spark workstation. He said,
What year?
93.
So this is pre-Windows 95. So this is
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, go ahead. That's right.
Windows, what is it, 3.8
Well, this
or
was
something like that?
Solaris OS. It's Unix, basically.
So it wasn't Windows back then, right? Like what came before Windows 9?
Well, I had a Mac.
something.
No, I had an early
3.1.
Apple II.
3.1, that's
yeah,
what it was.
Yeah,
right?
it was 3.1 and an Apple II. I was more Apple guy at the time. And so I hooked it up to my 56K modem, dial in. He says, "Watch this," and he says, "What?" And I'm on the phone with him. He says, "Watch this," and up on my screen pops a little player, and he's streaming in PC. We didn't have MP3s back then. PCM, pulse code modulation, 9-inch nails. I'm like, this is broadcasting. I'm going to figure out how we use this thing for broadcasting, because think about how we can use this outside of all the systems. And so 2003, now we're 10 years later, I've been very involved with RSS feeds and blogs, and I see my first iPod, and it's like, snap, crackle, pop. Hold on a second. This is amazing. We can combine. This is a radio. This is not a music device. It's radio. So I cobbled together this program that basically takes this RSS feed and then puts a program onto, so the show was an album, and then each track was an episode number. And then I immediately start doing a show. What I do is just try to get people involved. That's how Daily Source Code started, because I was trying to get software developers in. And then 3 years later, Steve Jobs is having a private conversation with me about putting this into the iPod and making it official, making a podcasting thing in iTunes. And I'm like, this is so perfect, because now you have this RSS feed which you control. No one else can control what you do with your RSS feed, and anybody can slurp that up and subscribe to your radio show. And then 20 years later, I see the President of the United States wrapping up his campaign with Joe Rogan on a podcast, completely being himself, being a dude by the way, props for you sticking to your guns. I love that you did that. Now it's got to be here. No restrictions on time.
Well, he didn't impose any. But he was more than willing to do it exactly how I do it.
He understands it. But at that moment, then I see you sitting there. I'm like, we just broke the elite messaging machine. Phase 1 complete.
All because of you, dog.
No, you dog, man. All
were
glory to
number one.
God. I think I was just used.
I always give you your props.
I think
you were the first.
I was just a vessel. It makes sense to me now.
Well, I'm just a vessel too. I think that's the case with all of it.
Absolutely.
I say that to the guys at my comedy club. They're always like so thankful that I built this comedy club. I'm like, I think this thing built itself. I think it was just I was a thing that it did through me. It caught me because it knew that I was capable of doing it and impulsive enough and brash enough to like say, fuck it, let's just dump a bunch of money in this spot and see what happens.
You were given gifts.
I was given gifts.
And you stuck with your gifts. And I know you're a very generous guy. I know you help a lot of people with all, not monetary necessarily, but just helping them, getting them on their feet. Like even Parker. I'm like, can I bring this kid? He's a big fan. You're like, absolutely, bring him in. You're a gracious guy. And so when you get whatever word it is to build a comedy club, you did.
I think you have to do that. I think that's the universe is testing you, and if you pay attention to yourself, you'll feel like what's the right thing to do. Like, what's the thing? What is the greedy, impulsive thing to do? What is like the miserly thing to do? Save it all. It's my money. Save it all. That's the
that usually doesn't end well for those people.
It's bad for you too, because I always talk about this in terms of careers, and I really try to put this in young comics' minds. There's an impulse that you will have when someone's doing better than you, and you will be angry at them. It is a bitter, pathetic, jealous, normal instinct that people have.
The enemy talking to you.
It's just you have to recognize what that is. What that is you have a desire to be doing the same thing. This person is doing this thing. They are in the movie. They are on the TV show. They are headlining at the club. And you feel bad because it's not you. So you decide that they are bad. And so you start looking at them as a source of negativity towards you, and you don't do all the logical, objective reasoning that allows you to go, oh, no, they didn't do anything wrong. It's just me. And then those people who get really super big and famous oftentimes get very defensive and very elitist because they do understand that people are mad at them now. So then they're like, fuck those people. Yeah. Those people are fucking losers. Yeah. And it's bad for everybody. It's bad for everybody. The correct way to do it is to go, wow, look at what this person has accomplished. That's fucking amazing. That's inspiring. I want to do something like that with my life.
Which is what America used to be. People would come to him. Yeah,
I think it is.
It's been covered up. It's been papered over by media, basically. That's why I'm so happy that we've broken through that elite messaging system. The way I was raised is in America, you can look at the guy with the Rolls Royce or the Cadillac or whatever and go, I want that, and you can be that. Yes. And we've kind of devolved into it's international now, into a victim mentality. There's good and evil. I mean,
it's just a ploy. It's, again, the same thing as fluoride in the water. It's a fucking psyop. It's a ploy. And it's a way to keep us, instead of empowering people to recognize that all these people that are successful are inspiration. That's what they are. They're fuel for you. You can use them. Whatever that person is singing at the Grammys, when Kendrick Lamar is doing the halftime show, when someone wins a fight, that's supposed to be inspiration. That's a fuel, and you can use it correctly. You can fuck your whole life up by paying attention to other people and comparing yourself in a negative way. This is part of the problem with kids and social media. Because kids are supposed to see like, oh, look at Bobby. He's nice to everybody and everybody likes Bobby. Be like Bobby. Like, look at Mark. He's fucking awesome at the guitar and everybody wants to go see him play. I want someone to come see me do something. I wish I was as good at something as Mark is at guitar. And that's what's supposed to like raise us all up.
But instead we see 1,000 followers and likes on someone blasting somebody in a funny way in a video.
Yeah.
This is a big part of the problem.
But sometimes funny way blasting is important too, because that's my line of work. Like, you got to talk shit. Talking shit is important.
You are a professional, Joe. You're a professional.
Yeah, but how do you become a professional? You start off as an amateur. You start off talking shit.
We can't all be a comedian or a comic. We just can't.
I think a lot more can than you think. I think a lot more. There's a lot of people out there that have the inclination that just don't get that spark, which is also one of the things we're trying to do with the club, which is also why we have 2 nights of open mic nights.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, we want to make it accessible. We want to make this is like a place where there's a real path. You can work on your act, and you're going to see guys like on a daily basis, guys like Ron White and Shane Gillis, and there's people coming in and out of town that are doing my podcast. They're like the best of the best in the world. Yeah, and they're coming to the club.
Oh, this is the center of the universe now for comedy. It's amazing. It's
amazing.
Place.
It's amazing. Really is. And again, I think this place. I think it built itself. I think I just had to do it. I was like,
I just got to tell you, no. God loves you, Joe. He is at work in you. He's all over you and has been that way for a long, long time. There's no doubt in my mind.
Well, whatever it is, I'm listening.
You'll accept it. Yeah,
I accept it and I listen. And I go with it.
Yeah.
But I think it all, like, too many things had to happen. Like, if you want to believe in fate, if you really want to believe in fate, I should believe in fate. Because especially with like this move here, too many things had to happen in line. It had to be the pandemic. and it had to be me with young kids who just was very uncomfortable with the direction that LA was going. And then it had to be the George Floyd riots and the lockdowns. And then I had to come to Texas and go, oh, there's other ways that people live. And I had known you for a long time, and you lived here, and you spoke very highly. And then my good friend Gary Clark Jr., he came here like before the pandemic, and I remember talking to him on the phone. I'm like, why did you move back to Texas? He's like, man, I just cannot fuck with those people in LA. Right. And Gary's like the realest dude I know. It's like one of the realest. Like, he doesn't give a fuck about fame, about that guy cares about playing that fucking guitar and playing songs as good as he can. And that guy just locks himself up in a studio. He's got a studio on his house at his house.
Yeah, that's what
he
you want.
Locks himself up in there for 12 hours a day, and it's just that guy only gives a fuck about the art. Like, he's about the craft. And like, so all the bullshit that came along with living in Hollywood, like, he would just come hang out at the Comedy Store all the time. That was just because it was like, oh, you guys are real. Like, I can hang with you. We'd just be cracking up and hanging. So when he came out here, I was like, fuck. And then Ron White came out here. I'm like, God damn it. And then it's like, oh, I fucking love it. It's fucking airport's a breeze. No traffic. Everyone's nice. It's the middle of the country. I was like, fuck. And then the pandemic happened, and it was like it all pulled me to the spot. And then it had to be the Spotify thing, and then it had to be the Comedy Store shutting down for a year. And then it had to be all the Comedy Store employees that I loved were all unemployed. And so then it was like, okay, let's fucking do this.
Exactly what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that with everything. That's why I started in 1983. I'm like, I see where the path was.
Yeah,
I've always
you see
been
the
doing.
path.
Always been doing this stuff.
And that's the
it
thing
makes
about
so much sense.
podcasting to me too. It was oddly compelling. Like, it didn't make any sense. I was making no money, and I was busy.
It was costing you money probably on bandwidth and stuff.
It was definitely costing some money, and I had young kids, and it was just like, why am I spending my time doing this when I should be spending my time maybe doing something to make more money? Because especially back then, it's like I wasn't doing Fear Factor anymore, so I wasn't really making the kind of money that I was making when I was on television. So I had to tour a lot. So I was doing stand up, and I was doing like way too many dates with the UFC. The UFC, although I love it to death, that's the only job I still have. I still work for somebody, but it's because I've been there for so long. But it was like 22 dates a year.
Do they send you a W-9?
I don't know. I think I'm an independent contractor. What's a W-9? How does that work? I have accountants.
I was just messing with you.
I'm like Joe Walsh. I have accountants pay for it all.
Yes, right. I got a Maserati does 210.
185. I lost my license. Now I don't drive.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a limo, ride in the back, lock all the doors in case I'm attacked.
Yeah, great song.
Life's been good to me so far. Yeah.
That's right. It's a great song.
I use that song all the time. Everybody's so different. I haven't changed.
You know, he's a ham radio guy, Joe
Is
Walsh.
he really?
He takes his rig out on the. He doesn't go on the road that much anymore. When he's out on the road, he has this huge ham radio rig, and that's like, I've been a ham for a long time, and that's like if you have we call it a QSL. QSO, that's ham code for a conversation.
Oh, okay.
With Joe Walsh. Oh man, there
Look
he is.
at that. Joe Walsh is the fucking man, dude.
He's awesome.
Life in the fast lane. That
That's
dude
right.
changed the Eagles. The Eagles on the way to killing your testosterone and making women cry all day. And then all of a sudden Joe Walsh comes along, and now you got Life in the Fast Lane.
Yeah.
Give me that riff. Give me the beginning of Life in the Fast Lane. Joe Walsh. It was wild rock and roll guitar attached to this beautiful voice and lyrics and songs and songwriting. Give me this, Jamie. Give it to me.
See how accurate it was. Diddle-dum-dum,
But there's a guitar, like I was talking about Gary, like here we go.
Close. Boom, bam, bam. Oh, all right. That's all we can
That's
do.
all?
We get in
for
trouble.
YouTube?
Get in trouble. Get in trouble.
Is that already going to get us in trouble?
Probably. Probably.
Fucking nonsense.
You're screwed. Because here we have all these there's 4.5 million podcasts, really only 400,000 update regularly. So it's not even that much, and that's global. How dare
you. You're teasing me.
We can't play music in podcasts because of all these different entities that own it. And so if you perform something on the radio or in a live stream, that's a performance right, which the club plays for that too if you're playing in music. So that's ASCAP BMI. Then you have the publishing right. Now, because you download a podcast, well, all of a sudden now you've made a copy of it. So that's another group over here. So you have the publishers, then the record companies. You have and they just could never agree, and they've locked themselves in so tight that the biggest opportunity for music would be to play it on podcasts. They've just they've painted themselves into a corner, and and we all know now that most artists, you get 10,000 streams on Spotify, and you get a penny after a couple of years.
Did you see what Snoop Dogg when he was going over this?
Oh,
you ever seen that video?
Horrendous. No, I'm sure it's horrendous. He got $1,000.
Billions of streams, and you got a check for $45 grand.
And Taylor Swift gets all the rest of the money. I mean, it's very
isn't
odd.
that because Taylor Swift owns her music? Isn't that the whole deal? Like
Yes.
if you own your music,
if you're the
it's a different-
publisher,
right?
and this. I don't want to get too deep into Spotify and all that, but people are starting to move away from that and what I call the value for value model, where we actually built this with Podcasting 2.0, where you can send a boost, like I want to send some money to this person straight from the app, so you can play it. You can play a song in the podcast as long as they've agreed to the license. They own all their stuff. You can send the money. We just did Suzanne Santo. We had I invited you to that.
Yeah, I couldn't make it, unfortunately.
All I had to say is I invited Joe. That was all I needed to say. And we had 6 people on stage, 6 different bands, and they all made between $600 and $800 coming just from out there. There was maybe 50 at the end of the night, maybe 50 people left. It's a Monday night, but they were all making more money than they had ever made on any other platform in their life. Just because people can send it through the internet, we actually use.
Isn't that crazy that $600 for a performance that goes on the internet is the most they've ever made from the internet?
Absolutely.
Isn't that crazy? Like you think
It
about
is
how many
crazy.
times they streamed. Like I found out about Suzanne from online. Some dude named Balls of Steel sent me a message, and he said, "This is your new favorite song." And I was like, "What?" And it was "Honey Honey, Angel of Death." They did an acoustic version on the top of a roof in downtown LA, and it was incredible. And I was like, "Oh my god!" And then I became friends with them, and
yeah, she and Nick are great, and their baby is super cute. Have you seen
it's
their
adorable.
daughter? Yeah,
Adorable. It's
she's
so
very
cool to see
cute.
her mom. I love it.
Yeah.
But it's like that. There's been so many streams on the radio, and the fact that you never made more than $600 is crazy. Like something's broken.
Well, that's because the publishers are getting all of that,
Right, exactly.
Because it's, and then.
But then on the other hand, you get, you can get really famous. Like people like Tyler, the Creator, and all these different people that have blown up just from being on the internet, and then they do live performances.
Yeah, but I still feel that
someone's making money.
Well, we know the publishers are making money. People say the
They've
record
always done
companies,
that.
but it's the publishers.
Yeah, they can't
own
call
the
them record
music.
companies anymore if they don't make records.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
more
you.
records.
I was in my garage the other day, and I put my wall of fame in the garage. Time to move this out of the house. Like I'm old enough now, and I'm looking at there's a platinum record with a cassette. With a platinum cassette on it. Do people even remember these days when you got a platinum record with a cassette on it?
That's crazy.
5 million copies sold of a cassette tape.
Jelly Roll gave us one of his platinum records. We got it out there in the hall.
That guy is awesome.
He's the
Jelly
best.
Roll is
I
what
love him to
a
death.
story.
He's
What
such a
story.
sweetheart. He's such a nice
And
guy.
he's a big crossover artist. The Christians love him, the country guys love him, the rock and rollers love him. It's like he's the perfect crossover artist. If I were an evil record executive, he's the perfect crossover artist, Joe. We need to sign him. That's what I'd be
also,
doing.
most unlikely looking to be the sweetest guy ever with fucking all the face tattoos and everything.
Just goes to show.
Yeah.
You can't tell a book by its cover.
No, you cannot. You cannot. No.
Ever. So, anyway, back to that. It's a shame that we've, the music industry has moved it into this protectionist place. And even if you have a spin studio, the Gestapo comes around you got more than 75 people a day here. You need to pay us more. And it's, they're very litigious. The whole thing is just a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah, I mean, law's great because it protects you from scumbags, but law's
Yeah, but
not
who's
so
it protecting
great.
now?
Yeah.
Because the artists are making no money.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
Although it's become easier to to do your music at home. I remember going to the Hit Factory in New York and hanging out, watching people record records. That was amazing with the big machines and lots of people running around. That was cool.
I think YouTube and social media presents very unique opportunities where a guy like Oliver Anthony can all of a sudden explode out of nowhere with one song.
Yep.
He's another sweetheart.
Yeah, you had him on. I saw it. That
he was at the
great.
club the other
That
night
was
too.
great.
We
Oh,
were all
really?
hanging out.
Where does he live?
I think he's still
down south?
Maybe he doesn't want people to know him.
Okay. Well, he lives.
I don't want to say
around.
but he was. Back he was in Virginia.
West
Yeah.
Virginia. Okay, yeah, West Virginia. That makes
Richmond,
sense.
because Richmond, north of Richmond was
right,
the song.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's where he was. I don't know if he's anymore.
And God bless
He's
him
the
because he
best.
stayed away from the system.
Yeah,
He's
we had
like-
a phone call. Yeah, I called him up when it would all started popping off for him. He
He
said,
said,
"I
I'm
really
going to
could
sign
use
you,
some-"
boy. I'm going to sign you to my Rogan Records. You're going to make millions. Here, take this Cadillac. It'll be great.
Yeah, I sent the Cadillac right to his house. That's the last thing you want to give that guy. You want to give him like a 1983 like
Exactly.
Chevy that's redone, a pickup truck, like an F-150 from the 80s
Nice.
that's like
Yeah.
redone, the boxy ones.
Yeah.
That's what you want to give
track
that
in
guy.
the dash. Good to
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
No, he's a genuine guy. He's a really nice guy. And we had this conversation over the phone. He said, people are offering me millions of dollars to do this and that and this. I go, stay independent. And he goes, they keep saying I got to strike while the iron's hot. I go, no. Listen to me. You've already made it. All you have to do now is just keep doing what you just did. And you can do that, right? I'm sure you have other songs. He goes, I got a bunch of other songs. Then he sent me some of his other songs, which are just as good, if not better. And I was like, dude, you have talent. Talent is what that's what everybody needs. All this other stuff is people just trying to take advantage of your talent. Stay independent.
That's what I mean about you,
Yeah.
Joe. You're a good guy. You
but I was
protect
already
people.
I was already past that spot where he's at. Like I'd been in that spot before where people are offering you deals and stuff like that. I know what the trappings of that is. You're broke, and then all of a sudden you have money. And like for me, it worked out great. That happened to me in 1993. I got this big development deal with Disney, and I moved out to California to do a sitcom. But it was like, I wanted to be a comic, and then all of a sudden I've got all this money that's coming from
actor.
TV. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is so weird.
Was that news radio?
No, that was Hardball. There was a baseball show that was on Fox that never made it.
I was an MTV man. I wasn't paying attention to
Yeah.
any of that stuff. Oh, didn't
Well,
make
actually, it actually started at MTV because I got a development deal with MTV first.
Really?
Yeah, but the development deal at MTV was like $500 to do a pilot. I'm not kidding. And then
Sounds like MTV.
I'm not kidding. It was like $500. Something, maybe 5,000. I don't think it was though. I think it was $500. And if I did the pilot and the pilot was successful, they would have me locked in for some exorbitant amount of time. I think it was like 5 years where I couldn't do anything other than MTV. And it was because they had a few people that became really famous off MTV and then left. And so they had decided that MTV is going to keep all of their talent. Like
Which
Dennis
is the
Leary.
funniest thing because when I got there in '87, VJs were expendable. They're like, you're expendable. Shut up. We can. Now they couldn't because they brought me over from Europe and I had a 2-year contract. I think the first year was $150,000. The second year was $175,000, and I got a car service, and I could do radio, any radio I wanted to do. And so, a lot of the people at the office really disliked me because they'd be like, "Cut your hair." I'm like, no, I'm not going to cut my hair. No.
Why did they want you to cut your hair?
It was new creative direction for the channel. I'm like, no, and I had different lengths of hair throughout the years.
But 80s, man. that hair was
I'm like,
gold.
have you seen the artists we're playing?
Let me give you a
no.
photo of Adam Curry in '88.
It's glorious.
Glorious
I have the
locks.
hair of Generation X. Don't call me a boomer.
Look at that.
There,
Come on. Who the
yeah.
fuck would tell you to cut that Farrah Fawcett? That's a beautiful head of hair. That's an amazing.
Good times, brother. Good
yeah,
times.
imagine someone telling you that probably that was like a huge hook too. Like probably
of course.
a lot of the ladies.
Well, you know what Merv Griffin always said?
What did
Merv
he say?
Griffin always said, people with big heads are successful on television. That's why he had Pat Sajak and, of course, Jay Leno.
Jay Leno.
Big heads, right?
Giant.
I don't have a big head.
You had
So
big hair.
I had big hair, so I had a big head. Exactly. The formula
funny.
worked.
Right, there's no like little tiny headed dudes that are like, wow.
No.
What is that about?
No, that works on YouTube now, but on television.
Does it work on YouTube?
Yeah,
Who's got a tiny head that's killing it on YouTube?
Anybody can be successful on YouTube.
Right.
I mean, it's all kinds of.
Well, doesn't that
interesting
show you
stuff.
that the formula's bullshit then? You know, like you got a guy like Mr. Beast who is not like a classically good looking guy who's got the biggest show in the world.
That guy has, I mean, so I don't, people say he's a creator. I think he's a creation. He is a creation of YouTube and how it works. You don't have this because you're so established, but his team, and he's talked about this, micromanage every second of each video, every cut, the poster images, all these things, and it's all about time spent viewing. If one video does 1:38 and the other one does 1:40, that other video is more successful. I mean, it's really, in order to like hook the algos, get everything rolling, you have to bring that down to a science. And of course, I mean, this is not for you and I don't think, is you have to always keep feeding the machine. You got to keep feeding it. You have to make your life a part of your YouTube channel. Otherwise, you drop off very quickly.
Yeah, well, I just think he has a different approach. I mean, his approach is very like scientific. He's very intelligent about it, and I'm a feel person, which is why when I get people as guests, I never think like. Sometimes people think, oh, you try to get like the biggest name guests because that'll be the most popular videos. I don't do that at all. Who do I want to talk to? That's exactly how I've always done it. So I'm going to always do it. And if it happens to be Mel Gibson, and
great interview.
He was great.
By the way. He was. I mean, I'm like. That's for me. He's always Mad Max. When I was a kid, we'd play hooky from school. We go back. And someone would have a VHS. No, I had a Betamax. You had a Betamax.
Yeah.
And like we're watching Mad Max, and then Diana Ross in the round. I mean,
Diana Ross in the round.
We love Diana Ross. You're like, oh, she's so awesome. But the Mad Max, man, that original, and he's standing there with his boots in the desert, and at the beginning, it was
great fucking movie. Oh, he had a bunch of bangers, but he's an interesting guy.
Yeah. And that blower on top of the engine. I mean, the whole thing was we just loved that.
That was a fun movie.
And then later Lethal Weapon, and I didn't realize, because I'd seen The Passion, which is, as a Jesus freak myself, was like, that was like, whoa, that was a heavy movie to watch. And when he said it, I didn't realize that the whole thing was in Aramaic. And it was the subtitles that you were basically reading the subtitles. And his theory that it penetrates you differently, the story, I think is so spot on.
I think so too. I mean,
it's really, really interesting.
Well, he's a very underrated filmmaker, and I always point to Apocalypto as another example of that. There's no English in that movie, and it's a masterful movie. It's a great movie.
That guy has a calling, man. He's doing and talent. He's got and he fought the system. He really, really fought the system so hard.
Well, that was what was fascinating about talking to him about what happened when he made The Passion of the Christ, because it was really, it wasn't that it was an anti-Jesus reaction to that film. It was an anti-Jesus reaction to that film that was really made by the motion picture industry because he had gone outside the normal distribution system.
Yep.
So in creating that movie, he financed it himself. He went outside. He got a smaller distributor, and it did really well. And they were like
$800 million or something.
Exactly. So they're like, we got to make sure this doesn't fucking happen again. And that's where the attacks came. And that's also where Jim Caviezel, his career completely stalled out. You would think the guy's in a gigantic blockbuster movie like that, like he's going to be in blockbuster movie after blockbuster movie after this. No, they kind of blackballed him.
Yes. Well, and so you have smaller studios now like Angel Studios, and they're in Utah. And they crowdfunded The Chosen, which is, the story of Jesus. And it's, unbelievable. They're in their 5th season now, completely outside the studio system, completely away from it. And it's all crowdfunding. At the end of the season, the credits are like 15 minutes of everybody who donated, and everybody who donated, X amount, they get to be extras on the set. It's a whole new way of looking at producing stuff.
Interesting. Yeah.
Then, of course, they went on to do an apocalyptic movie called Homestead, which is a dog it's so horrible. It's like, what is this? I mean, it's
Oh, it's a bad movie.
bad acting.
Is it bad enough to watch it?
No. Tina
Have
and
a
I were
cocktail?
watching. We're like, do we bail? No, 10 more minutes. Do we bail? No, it's going to happen. It's like, no. It was too bad. I mean, just like, what?
It's hard to make a good movie.
Of course it is.
Well, imagine the amount of people that you have. If you have a bunch of idiots telling you to cut your hair, imagine how many dumbasses you have in the background of the movie that are telling you what to do. All the money people, all the executives. Like, it must be so hard. You have to be like a Quentin Tarantino, who's like, they just leave him alone, let him do his magic.
He's an interesting. Have you met him? Quentin
Oh, yeah,
Tarantino?
he's been on a couple times.
Interesting fellow.
We hung out with him the other night. We went out to dinner with him and Roger Avery, who's also awesome. And then we went to the club and we hung out at the club.
He's an interesting guy.
And that's what he requested to come to the
Was
club.
he wearing
and
his
come to dinner.
tracksuit?
No, he was dressed normal.
I saw him in L.A. when I was there for about a year. I was like, you see him like tracksuit.
Tracksuits are comfortable.
Tracksuit.
I get it why the mob guys wear tracksuits all the
Yeah,
time.
of course.
Once
the
you
Russian
wear
mob
one, you're
guys,
like,
they know.
this is the way to do it.
Adidas,
It's
man.
comfortable.
Adidas, that's my uniform.
I think the move is like stretchy jeans, because stretchy jeans give you all the feel of a tracksuit, but you don't look like a weirdo.
I've become a hoodie guy, much
Hoodies are
much to
great.
my wife's chagrin. She's like, I got friends of mine saying, "Hey, Fetterman." I'm like, really, brother?
Fetterman
Really?
wore a hoodie to the fucking inauguration.
That was a little wild. I mean, the hoodie was one thing, but the shorts, I'm like, well, that's Fetterman, I guess.
That's really who he is. I mean, it's kind of weird in that, like, come on, everybody else is wearing a suit. But it's also kind of like, well, that's how he dresses 24 hours a day. Like,
Yeah, but you wore a tuxedo. Dude, you wore a button down for the president being in your studio. I was impressed by that.
well, I felt like I had to. The vice president, too.
Yeah.
It's like, I got to wear something nice.
It's because, it's it shows a little bit of respect.
Yeah, I didn't even clean the table off, though. But
Well, why
my
would you?
friend Harlan Williams was very happy that Dimitri was on the table.
Oh, your snake.
Yeah, he gave me a giant hug. He goes, Dimitri was on the
He
table
was there,
when you were
man. He was
interviewing the
there.
president.
Yes.
This is a gag that Harlan did. He said he had a tapeworm, and then 3 hours into the podcast, he pulls out this fucking snake out of his pants. You got to see Harlan. He's so funny and so unusual and so eccentric that, like, for him, like, it was such a huge thing to see the snake on the table that he pulled out of his pants.
I get it. I mean, it was so interesting where, and you've talked about the Harris campaign and all the stuff that they were saying. And, it's like, well, we talked to his people. I'm like, his people? I think it's Jamie and then maybe one other guy.
Well, I do have managers, and they did talk to them.
Oh, they did talk to them? Okay.
But what
All
they
right.
said just wasn't true.
But I mean, it's not like you have a super big team here. It's,
No,
it's
a
small.
very
It's
even the
small.
team outside of here is not that
small.
big. But it's just it's just normal political bullshit. They just lie. They cover their ass and they lie. I would have been very happy to have her on. And like I said, the goal was to release both of them the same day. I was
that's
trying
a
to
great
figure out
idea.
how to
It
do
would have
that.
been great. That would have been fantastic.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if that would be possible to do. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to put them out both at the same time.
But that's it. That's where we broke the elite messaging system. We broke it because they
Yeah.
could not put her into the new system. They couldn't because they knew that she would fall down.
Well, they just got scared. They could have. They could have put her in. I would have held her hand. We would have
I'm
had
sure
a
you would have.
conversation.
I'm sure
Not
you
that
would
I
have.
need to hold.
You probably would
the
have
vice
voted
president's
for her.
hand. But what I meant was, no, I wouldn't have done that. I wasn't going to vote for her.
I don't know, Joe. She might have charmed you.
But
you
I
know.
was more than willing to strongman or steelman all of our positions to try to like.
That's
I
it.
wanted to.
That's
I
it.
wanted to
Yeah.
know what would be the good in this and why. And let them. I mean, even if it doesn't make any sense, express it the best way possible that you can. I will help you do that, and then I will ask you questions.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be antagonistic. I'm not going to be a shithead. I'm not going to be. I have no
not
desire to
like
turn
that.
this into a viral clip thing. I'm not
I
trying
don't
to do
think.
that.
I don't think you've ever done that with anybody.
No, I don't want to. I never wanted that done to me. So why would I do that to
That's
someone
why
else?
I wore this hoodie. Iron sharpens iron. That's what you are, brother. You bring people in. Iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. You're always, I come here because I want to learn from Joe. I want my iron to be sharpened by Joe. You do that with everybody who's there.
Well, I just want whoever's in that seat to do the best they can, right? So, like, whatever it is, whether you're talking about quantum physics or whether you're talking about human psychology or
Yeah.
ancient history, I want the best version of you, and I want to, like, kind of help you get the best version out. And if you're running for president, I'd like to get the best version of that from
Right,
you. And I
right.
think that the whole system of debates and public speeches and interviews is so bad for getting to know a human being.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, like, I've seen interviews where she's really funny. I've seen this one. I talked about it before, but I'll say it again. There's this one interview where she's talking about meeting her mother-in-law for the first time,
Yes.
and her mother-in-law grabbing her
Jewish
face
lady.
like, "Oh, you're
Yeah.
so beautiful," and it's
Yeah.
very funny.
Yeah.
And she laughs in a genuine way. It's not like that sort of defensive laughter that she does sometimes, where it seems like it's orchestrated. It was a genuine laughter, and it was fun.
Well, she's a prosecutor. That's why she kept going into prosecutorial mode. The same with the so-called debate with Trump. She was prosecuting him. So she has a switch that she just
Right,
flips.
and she
then
becomes an authority.
Yeah, and then whereas our president, he's kind of him all the time. They're eating the dogs. I think
Yeah.
that won him the election, too. That
Yeah.
was awesome. I mean, that's one of my favorite jingles of all time. They're eating the dogs.
They're eating the
Are you
cats.
kidding me? This
Yeah.
is that just like that. That's fantastic.
Well, it is. It's very interesting to watch it all take place. It's very interesting to watch this shifting of the consciousness of the country,
The culture.
but also to see the reaction on the left, like to see the really crazy people, like those people at that Worcester Town Hall thing. Like that, it's interesting to see that too, because you're going to see these like really exaggerated grasps at retaining relevancy. Like really exaggerated.
Well, they're crying out
over
for
the top.
help is
Yeah,
what
yeah,
they're
yeah.
doing. They're crying out for help. They've been psyoped. I mean, I'm only on X. I gave up Facebook and Instagram. I'm not interested. And X I really only use as kind of an inbox. People will send me stuff and things for the show. But early on, when Blue Cry was still a secret project within Twitter that Jack Dorsey was running, I knew some people who were in that secret project. And so I have an account. And I went on there the other day. I'm like, oh, my Lord, this is horrible. These people are spinning up and spinning out and just going nuts with each other.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know how we have to figure out a way. And, President Trump says success will bring us together. And I think that's probably true. But, we can't just I'm a little worried that we're all going to be stomping on them. It's like, look at these stupid libs. Look, they're idiots. They're crazy.
Right.
And I just feel that, you gotta love them and not hate them. You don't have to forget what they've done or what they've said, but they have been abused by multiple entities and systems within our own government and political organizations.
Yeah. Also, they're in this feedback loop, this
Yes,
echo
sir.
chamber, and
Yeah.
they don't have outside people that are kind, and everybody outside is the enemy, and they're trying to make their way through life like all of us. But without forgiveness, you have nothing. Like you have to be able to forgive people.
Yes.
You have to. Without that, there's nothing. Like,
Well, you remain trapped in your own prison.
yeah, and you have enemies forever that could have been your friends. There's no reason for it. It's not good for you. It's not good for them. And it's just like this stubborn inclination that a lot of people have to stick with that. Like, fuck those people forever, for life. You really shouldn't do that. It's not good.
Well,
Especially if those people feel bad. If they apologize
Yeah.
and they realize they've made mistakes. Yeah, like that's what life's about. You got to be able to understand that in the past you've made mistakes and grow. And if we, the people that have made mistakes and grown, do not accept the people that are currently making mistakes and growing, well, then we're hypocrites.
Well, that's the same with COVID. I know many people who either lost their job or were forced to take something they didn't want to take, and they will never forgive them. Like, I won't forget. Now, forgiving is not the same as forgetting, obviously, but they can't bring themselves to forgive those who were caught up in a massive psychological operation, and they're held in their own prison of anger, and it's with their own family members. I mean, it's almost like, did that happen? That just went, we're now back. What are we doing?
know.
All these things have gone
Wild.
so fast. We had an attempt on a president's life, and it's like we don't know anything, and all the what just, I mean, we're like, our heads are on a swivel spinning around, like what is going on? And I think
And the drones. What about the drone?
So the drone thing, for me, it was so odd. First of all, there's a base over there, and they're testing some drone technology. But people in the United States, but really around the world, this is how we go through life. We go through life looking down. I'm a pilot. I fly helicopters, airplanes. I'm looking up at the sky all the time. There's a lot going on. There's a lot happening in the sky. And then the minute
What have you seen?
all kinds of things, Joe.
What have you
I've
seen?
seen the Starlink satellites go over my house.
Yeah, those trip people out.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa. And, it's like 8 or 9 in a row. Like,
And they
whoa.
go fast, too.
Very fast. And they seem pretty low, actually. Only like 60 miles up. I'm like, and of course, once it becomes a story, then I know all these people with drones are like, dude, I'm going to get in the news. I'm flying my drone. They got 6-foot diameter drones flying around. Of
Yep.
course. I mean, aliens and Chinese drones, they always want to have their red and green anti-collision lights on.
It's important.
It's like, I was like, no. And of course, there was some actual legislation that they wanted to pass, which happened that same week, which was to get Chinese drones out of America. The DJI drones, they don't want them. They want to give.
They passed that the same week that this is going on?
Dude, same week.
Oh,
same
my
week.
God.
That's why they psyoped all of these local people. And they're all,
my God.
Yes. Oh yeah. It was the
These motherfuckers.
yeah, they wanted the DJI drones no longer to come in, and but really for law enforcement to also have local authority over drones, which they didn't have, and now they're going to have that as well, so they can say, hey, you with the drone down, we're doing something important here.
Right.
So it's always to remove your freedom. Trust me. Whatever the sign. Yeah, that was the same time, and all I had to do, I looked at this and like, okay, I'm trained myself. Like, well, let's go take a look. What's going on? Oh, that's interesting, isn't it?
Well,
Look
this
at
is
this
another
legislation.
argument for deregulation too, because when it comes to innovation, the issue with drones is that if you want like a really high-level, sophisticated drone in America, you have to have a pilot's license.
You do.
Yeah. That's a big deal, and the FAA is very involved in the policing of.
Well, you need that. I mean, you need
Yeah.
that for our skies, obviously.
100%.
Yeah.
China don't have that, bro. They got a social credit
But
score
also,
system and
if
no freedom.
I
And
talk to a lot of guys who do our audience who just got people in every. We've trained them. You're producers. You know something about one particular topic. You have an obligation to let us know. So we have all these guys, drone for hobbies, drones for law enforcement, drones for news, and they all said, these DJI drones, they're so much better than the U.S. drones. They're just better. They got better stuff, better technology, better cameras. So they're like, I don't want to lose this. And, I guess
the thing
they
is,
will.
without the free market, the innovation is going to be stifled. If the innovation is only available to the highest level military contractors, that's crazy. Like, especially when it comes to drone technology. Like, you're competing with China, and they're doing these enormous light shows with a fucking dragon flying through the sky. Have you seen some of those things?
I seen them fall out and hit people.
Gotta crack a few eggs if you want to make an omelet out
I
of
hear
curry.
you. I'm glad I don't go to drone shows for this
Yeah.
very reason, Joe. I'm careful. I'm careful
that's
about
probably
that.
like those air shows where
Well,
they fly jets around.
so-
Like, I'm not going to be on the
No,
ground.
I
with a picnic
don't go to
basket.
those. That's why I like Starlink, because Starlink is really first and foremost a military system, and very smartly, I think Elon is very good at marketing. It's like, let's give this to the people, so that's. Everyone, I mean, I have it as a backup at home. I have fiber, but I have a Starlink. Of course, I want to have this, but it's really a military system.
Dude, I
And-
took one with me to the mountains in Utah when I went hunting.
Worked
It's
perfectly.
the size of this pad.
Yeah, the to go, the
It's
little
incredible.
little to go
It's
thing.
incredible.
Yeah.
You can make phone calls. You can do FaceTime, all from the mountains, in the middle of nowhere.
I know. It's. We used to dream of. I think I had databelt.com at one point. I dreamt about, wouldn't it be great if we have these satellites and they're circling around and we call it the data belt and we'd have all this stuff and, all these things. I can just see the delight of, and of course a lot of, it's, SpaceX, these are very sophisticated NASA people. You know, there's all kind. The best of the best is in there. I think he knows how to hire the right people. But he's smart at how he markets that. He really
Certainly.
is. I mean,
well,
it's
the
just
newest thing is they've teamed up with T-Mobile, so they're
that. Yeah.
So you have Starlink on cell phones. now.
Compatible phones only, Joe.
Right. So you've gone to a flip phone now.
I've gone to flip. Yeah.
So are you texting me on that thing?
No, we do it on Signal, so I do that from my
Okay.
computer.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy, you're a weirdo. So now you've gone completely flip phone. So
Yeah.
you don't text anybody anymore?
No, I can text. I can text message, but
But it's like T9?
No. There's actually so. I still have my Graphene OS, which is the de-Googled stuff.
In
but
that?
No, you can't put that on here. So this is Android, but all I really have on here is text messaging, RCS.
Can I
so
see it?
yeah, so I'm still a green bubble.
This is a big flip phone.
$63, and it's from Caterpillar, baby.
Whoa. So this is like for job sites.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
bet your battery lasts a year. How long is the battery?
Literally 2 days if I don't charge it, keeps going. Oh yeah, it's no
Wow.
problem.
And so this is Android, and you have a touch screen.
Yeah. If you text, it pops up. Now
Bro,
it's
this might be the
the whole thing is it's hard to use, and that's why I like it because I
Yeah.
don't want. It's a trap.
Well, reading your text messages is a trip.
What am I saying?
No, they're so small. This is crazy.
Yeah.
How do you get back?
Use the back button on the keyboard.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
So I.
This is
So
hilarious.
in a pinch, I can bring up a web page. In a pinch, I can bring up my email.
Right, but it makes it complicated.
Yeah, so I'm hindering myself so that I'm not enslaved to it. And actually, I hear from our daughters, you know, that there's a lot of kids who are doing this now. Because they want to be more present.
So if you
particularly
want to
the
send a text message, like
Yeah.
if you want to get into your messages, what are you using to send a text message?
well, here I'll show you.
Are you doing like T9?
No. So
You're typing. You have a little tiny keyboard.
see,
that
I can
comes
even
on this
do it.
little
Look,
tiny
emojis.
screen?
Look, emojis for my wife.
Oh, cute.
See, you just hit that, and then up pops the keyboard. But you can also swipe, so you can just swipe
Oh my
swipe
God,
around.
this keyboard's hilarious.
You can also
I'm
do.
gonna try to write hello. Hello.
My wife will be like, "What's going on?" Yeah, it's probably auto completing.
This is terrible.
Yeah, you got to. I have it in swipe mode.
Yeah.
So just swipe along the
I don't
letters.
know how to do that.
Yeah, just
E-L-L-O.
Yeah.
Nope. High sense. Nope, didn't work.
No, yeah.
I have fat ass fingers too, man. This is not gonna work.
It's not easy, and but it's like I just need to. I like talking to people now too. Like it's a great phone for talking to people.
yeah, talking to people's better.
And you know what's cool?
Do you have navigation on this thing?
No. Well, I could put it on there.
But then the government may be
It
following
won't
bro.
work. But you talk to someone like,
Yes.
satisfying.
Yeah, that is satisfying.
Has little alerts if I get a text message so I can see.
So
who
if
it's from.
somebody tells you, "Hey, the meeting got moved to 10 p.m."
I don't have meetings, Joe.
Well,
I got no.
whatever.
No.
Our
meetings.
dinner reservations get changed. You'll get it.
Yeah, it's Dvorak, my partner on No Agenda. He literally has a phone in his drawer, and he never takes it out. He has decided, no, I don't use navigation. He lives in San Francisco, so he wants to, wants to keep his mind sharp by driving around. He says, whenever I need a phone, I just turn around to someone and say, hey man, can I use your phone for a second? There's always someone with a phone. He says. So if I really needed to look something up, I just ask him for it, and and good to go. You get the feeling that you need this thing, but you really don't.
Well, you definitely don't if you have a laptop
Yeah.
and
And spend dedicated time doing certain things.
Right. Especially like if I can't keep up with emails. It's impossible. It just doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
see, that's basically all I do.
I can't do it. It doesn't
Yeah,
work.
I
anymore.
have
There's no
filtering
way.
and all kinds of stuff. There's like people who will email me 15 times a day.
Okay.
And well, the thing is, of those 15 messages, there's one gem in there.
Right, but you have to check them every day. Otherwise, in 3 days, you've got 4,500 messages.
Well,
that doesn't make any sense.
How many?
45.
100. 4,500
No,
messages.
from that one guy.
Oh, yeah, but
15
but
a day?
I put him in his own email box.
Oh, I see.
And so then, like
go in and
when I'm
check.
prepping for the show, like no, I can just see,
Right,
no,
and then maybe.
boom, maybe check
Right.
that out.
Yeah.
So I'm a real information manager. That's, by the way, I am not a big believer in the benefits of AI at this moment. But if it can fix my email, then I'll believe it. And so far, no one's done that with
How
email.
could it possibly fix your email?
It should know what I want to see and what's relevant to me based upon how about the transcript of my show, or I mean, all these wonderful inputs I can give it. How come it can't do that? No one has fixed email for me. When you do that, then I'll be a little more of a believer in AI. Right now, I think it's a great parlor trick. I think it's keeping the stock market afloat. We've gone through 3 AI winters. It even has its own wiki page, AI winter. It comes and goes. At a certain point, it was Lisp was the programming language, and then that went away, and then funding dries up, and now it's like, what? We don't really need $100 million to build a model. Oh, but wait a minute, they stole that from you, so you can copy. I run these models at home on my own computer. I run the Llama model, which is Meta. They've open sourced it. I've run the French one, whatever their frog model, whatever they call it. And then DeepSeek, you can also just load that on your own computer. And it's not very impressive. I mean, it's just not. The error rate is too high. So I'm skeptical of it really taking off. And I certainly don't think it's sentient or anything of that kind.
I think it's on its way. And I think also the versions that we're getting are not the versions they're currently working on. And the people that I know that are in the loop at the highest levels of AI are alarmed, including Elon. I had a conversation with Elon. We went to, we were in line together to go to church the day of the inauguration. It just happened to be right next to him. And we just walked through together. I'm like, hey, what's up? And that's all I wanted to talk about was the leaps that Grok AI is making. And he's like, it's like weekly we're shocked. And I think this thing is exponential. And when they start attaching large language models to quantum computing, it's going to get very, very weird.
That's the pivot I'm waiting for when people
That's
start.
coming, man, and that's going to be like an asteroid hitting the Yucatan.
We've been waiting for quantum computers to actually work for 30 years, and it's always 10 years away, and right now it's 10 years away.
Yeah, but right now they're able to do things with them. They're able to solve very complicated algorithms. I'm not an expert in this, but there was one computation they did, and that may be a computation it could do. It's not necessary that you can give it any computation. But
that
the computations that it's doing are so insanely complex that they believe it's proof of the multiverse.
Yeah, I've heard this.
Yeah, you're not buying it.
No, not at all.
Really?
No, not for a second.
How come?
Because
How dare you?
I
How
know.
dare you
I'm a
crush my
Luddite.
dreams?
I'm a Luddite. Look at me.
How dare you crush my dreams?
I believe in this.
Yeah. I've got no smoke signal in my car.
For a number of reasons. One is I'm not using it. I am the techno guy. I've always been early in computers, early in the internet, and I just can't find a use for it. When I find it does some simple things. It's very good at language. Honestly, if I was like, okay, here's my situation, I'm looking for Bible scripture, it'll come up with something good, and then I can say, and read it to me like a Baptist pastor, and it'll go, hey brother,
Right.
He'll do all that stuff. But okay, it has all of the translations of the Bible in it, and so it can predict reasonably what scripture will work. It's usually not all that great. It can do term papers. It can do, we're in a position now where people are putting their resume into ChatGPT, sending it off. Thousands of people are sending off for a job. And the other end, the people are taking that resume, putting it into ChatGPT and saying, please summarize this resume. I mean, that's insane. I mean, it's like, what are we doing here? That doesn't make any sense. If it can fix my email, I'll be very impressed. That's all I want. That's
Your
all I
email's
ask
a particular puzzle, though. That's the thing.
Everyone's email is a puzzle.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well,
the spammers get around stuff and they figure it out, and you say report a spam, and then it comes back in a different way, and and how many older people especially, but even people our age who get scammed by these emails that look pretty convincing, and then the minute you click, then they're like, oh, I should put my password in, and then you're gone, you're done. There's a phone scam going around right now, which is unbelievable. They had me going for 15 minutes. I got a call. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, right at 8 o'clock, and I'm about to walk the dog, so I press it to voicemail. I come back, I listen. this is the sheriff from Travis County, and it had a 512 number, and I need to talk to you urgently. I'm like, okay, this is kind of messed up. I call back, I get someone. Oh, I want Sheriff so and so. Yeah, hold on a second, we'll transfer you. I'm hearing like police radio chatter in the background. The guy gets on, and he's saying, well, you were an expert witness. You were called to be an expert witness in a case. I just happened to, and maybe this is not coincidence, I was asked to testify on someone's behalf in a case. And so you were supposed to be an expert witness in this case. You didn't show up. So you've basically broken federal law, and, we have to come and pick you up. And we have to, or you can pay a fine. And then I'm like, okay. And it just kept on going. And I'm like, whoa, hold on a sec. It sounded so real. And then at a certain point, he's like, well, you need to get a coupon to send this money. I'm like, I'm going to call my lawyer. You can't call your lawyer. I have a do not hang up order. I have to walk you through the whole process. I'm like, okay, now I got it. But that was 10, 15 minutes later.
Wow.
And a lot of people have fallen for this one. It's good.
Super sophisticated, huh?
Very
so
sophisticated.
So is that overseas? Are they like
No.
spoofing a number?
No,
that's
I mean,
in Texas?
these were American voices. It sounded like a sheriff. It really did. And the deputy sounded like a deputy. I mean, it was sophisticated. It's good.
Wow.
It's really,
How much was the fine?
Like $3,000 for this infraction and $2,000 for that infraction, for these two different things.
And then you're going to bank transfer, so they're going to get your bank numbers.
But I mean, at that point, I caught on. I'm like, no, hold on a second.
How'd you get off of it?
I said I'm going to call my lawyer, and he's like, no. I'm like, you can't tell me I can't call my lawyer. This is bull crap. And I had to calm down. I said to Tina, I said, listen to what just happened to me. This is crazy. Some people I know in Fredericksburg actually went all the way.
Wow.
Yeah, older people,
Right.
and they were afraid. They're like, oh,
Of course.
authority.
That's how they get you.
Now, I'm sure you've got the one that says, this is my favorite Bitcoin scam. It's like, okay, I've installed a spyware on your computer, and I saw what you were doing looking at that porn site, and I've recorded everything, and I'm going to release it all to your friends and on your social media if you don't send me $2,000 in Bitcoin right away. Don't even think about contacting the authorities. Have you ever gotten that one?
No.
They've sophisticated it even more now. They'll use your name and your address.
Oh.
Like, I know you live at this address. It's freaky, man. So that kind of stuff would be nice if we could have AI protect us from that.
Yeah.
If it can do all these wonderful things, focus on that. Help people. Save people now.
Yeah,
Elon.
cut out the scamming.
Yeah.
Cut out. Speaking of scamming, what do you think about shit coins? Like, what's your take on like Haktua coin,
Okay.
and Melania coin, and
Those are more meme
Trump coin.
more meme coins.
shit coins, right? Isn't that what a meme coin is?
So the only coin I believe in is Bitcoin. And we've talked about this before.
Right.
In fact, I looked it up, hoping you would bring it up. 2 years ago when I was here the last time, Bitcoin was around $40,000. Today, it's close to $100,000. This will continue to go up until we're long gone. It's very interesting. So I don't believe in shit coins at all, because if you have Bitcoin has no CEO, there's no one in charge of it. It's literally tens of thousands of people around the world who run these nodes that make it open and make it run and keep it at this 21 million coin limit.
I'm totally down with Bitcoin.
Okay.
I'm with you. Good. But I think the shitcoin thing is fascinating, that anybody can create a coin.
Yeah.
Like Jamie has a pull it up Jamie coin. I don't know if you know that.
Well, but you
I did not make it. Don't put that on me.
You-
Do not.
So it's out there now.
I mean,
now that you just said it, now that we just
No,
said it,
no.
because we brought it up yesterday with the Boneyard guy, with John Reeves, and we said, you should have your own coin. Get it the Boneyard coin. And now apparently somebody made one.
So this is you bring this up in context of scams, because they are scams. The way it works.
trouble.
So if I wanted to make a quick amount of money, I'd have a shit coin, and I'd have my bots ready, and I'd say, hey, Joe, have you heard about my curry coin? And you'd be like, no, wait a minute. And it would come out, and it would skyrocket. My bots would sell it. I would make a lot of money, and it would be dumped right away. It's a scam over and over and over
But what
again.
if you don't sell it?
Yeah, then you'll have empty bits worth nothing.
But so it's only available for pump and dumps.
That's the only thing it's good for. It's not good for anything else.
What about if you wanted to use it to finance charity? Is it possible to
Bad
do that?
idea. Bad
Is it
idea.
a bad idea?
Yeah. A lot of charities now, they will accept Bitcoin. And why is that good? Because people who have Bitcoin, and I have some Bitcoin, I've been saving my Bitcoin for a long time. Instead of selling it, to which I then have to pay capital gains over the difference between what I bought it for and sold it at, I can give it to the charity. I can still take my tax-deductible write-off. They can do one of two things. They can convert it right away into dollars, no capital gains because it's the same minute. So I've actually been able to give more than I would have, or they can sell some of it and hold some of it for a longer term. I really believe in Bitcoin, and what we're seeing now, there is something interesting going on. Our dollar is in big trouble, and President Trump knows this. This falls into kind of the tariffs talk. Have you heard about stable coins?
No.
Okay. Do you mind if I just give you a little?
Go ahead. Sure.
Our monetary system, it really started after World War II, 1944. We were nearing the end of the war. D-Day was coming, or maybe it just happened. We're getting pretty close. And Europe in particular was very worried that after the war, they would fall into the same Great Depression that happened after World War I when we had the Great Depression. So they brought in all the economists and all the money. People got on the Queen Mary and went to the States to Bretton Woods. You've heard of Bretton Woods probably.
No.
The Bretton Woods system? Okay. So Bretton Woods is just this resort. They all got together and they decided that they would have a new monetary system for the entire world. I'm not an economist, but I've looked at this long enough to understand it. And when they came out after 2 weeks, they said, okay, we're going to have this thing called the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, and they're going to manage the interest rates, or they manage the currency exchange between all the individual countries with the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency. So we became the money of the world, and we back it by gold. And the idea was $1 could always be exchanged for 35 ounces of gold. And, when you're the reserve currency, everyone has to have the dollar. So everybody wanted our dollar. What did we do? We signed the Marshall Plan. We sent tens, just billions of dollars over. All our companies went into Europe, started building factories, and so the dollar kept going in. All these other currencies kind of came a little bit weaker because we were so strong with our money. And then people got a little worried about the dollar. They looked around and went like, hey, do you guys have the gold to back that up in Fort Knox? Of course we didn't, because we just kept printing money and sending it over. And then you get into this thing called the Triffin dilemma. And that means that when you are the reserve currency, your currency is basically overvalued and you can't export anything. And that's exactly, I'm skipping over a lot, but that's where we are today. Our products are too expensive to ship to China and sell in China because of the value of our dollar. This is why President Trump is saying, hey, all our money is flowing out towards you. We need to get some of that back, so we're going to raise tariffs. I think it's a short-term solution. So I think two things will happen. One is we have this sovereign wealth fund, which you've heard him talk about, the sovereign wealth fund. Mm-hmm. So in that will be the value of our public land that the government owns and all kinds of other things. It'll be valued at this astronomical amount. And in that will also be the strategic Bitcoin reserve that the president promised. Now we get stable coins. This is a crazy thing that's happened. There's this. So a stable coin is a digital dollar. It's pegged to the dollar, so it's always a dollar. And you can pay with this through the internet, through apps and everything. It's already being used all over the world. The only reason it's worth $1 is because the stablecoin company that creates it, they have debt and paper to back it up. So they buy America's debt. They get treasury bonds or T-bills, which actually pays a dividend, so you get interest on that. And for each dollar they have bought in treasuries, they can create a stable coin. So if you look at the company Tether, they have bought more of the United States debt than most countries. They have $160 billion worth of U.S. debt, and for each of those dollars, they've created a stable coin, which now people can use all over the world transacting.
Whoa.
And what's their business? There's like 50 people in the company. So they have $160 billion at 4% interest annually. They're making bank just for holding this debt. So I think President Trump is very smart, and he's seen that we can flood the world with our stable coin, and you kind of get a 2-for-1. So you create a dollar of debt, but then you create another dollar on top that can be used all over the world as the reserve currency, and that should probably result in, I don't know, the Mar-a-Lago Accord or some new monetary system that we're going to have to come up with to really have our dollar be valued properly, but also still remain the reserve currency and remain the strong export country that we need to be. Because, what do? We don't make anything that we sell abroad. We can't all be, serving each other burgers and fries and washing each other's cars and cleaning each other's homes. We have to build something. And all of that went overseas. Everything we got, all of the stuff on this table. This, it didn't come out of his butt. This is from China. Although, I don't know. So there's something big coming, really big. And it has to happen. And Trump is a very meta guy. People misunderstand. He's going to refi the country. That's what he's a real estate guy. He's going to figure out a way to refi it, and it'll be digital. And a lot of the Bitcoiners don't like this because they like Bitcoin to be the money that the whole world uses. That may one day happen, but now it's more like the digital gold. You can keep your value in it. And, I can send $1 billion, if I had it, I could send $1 billion to another country, to another person in 10 minutes, and, no one can stop me. So it's a very useful tool, but it hasn't quite turned out to be money or currency the way it was originally intended. But it's going to be a very important part of it. I think you'll see Bitcoin be a part of that strategic reserve. It's easier than sending gold, than, I'm going to ship you $1 billion worth of gold. I need, armored cars, I need dudes, everything, security and ships and whatever. So it'll be a part of it, and you'll still be able to use it between people. But it looks to me like stablecoin, Tether in particular, is going to be the future of the U.S. dollar payments. And this is where a lot of people on the right, certainly, are very afraid of control grid, because a stable coin is not necessarily like Bitcoin. You can stop it, you can control it, you can see who sent what to whom. There's a lot of fear about this, and particularly, although I don't see any maliciousness, there's fear that Elon and the PayPal mafia and Peter Thiel, all guys you've met, all guys you've had on the show, I think are actually quite nice people, that they're going to bring in the new with AI, and we're all going to be locked in, and Stargate will bring cancer mRNA vaccines that'll be mandated. I mean, people are spinning up over this stuff. And I'm not saying that they're necessarily wrong or there should be no concern, but we are moving towards a digital dollar, and it will have aspects of control, which is why I like the backup of Bitcoin, so I can still transact and do things without anybody being able to stop it. And you're going to get none of that with a shitcoin. Nothing.
When FTX, that scandal, what were they trading in? Was that all meme coins? Was that different cryptos? Is there a difference between meme coins and established crypto coins?
Well, an established anything but Bitcoin has someone who can change the ledger, who can change the blockchain. Bitcoin, you can't do that. It has it's a beautiful system. The checks and balances are immutable. I mean, that's the beauty of Bitcoin. Any other blockchain that is owned or operated by a company or people can be and will be manipulated. And FTX was one of those. What I believe FTX was really used for was slush fund into Democrat Party and politicians, not just, also to some Republicans as well. That kid, that Sam Bankman-Fried, he got abused by his parents, I think. I'm just alleging this. I don't want to get sued over it. But when you see what was going on there and the money that was just being slushed right through
Well, his
into
parents
different
were
foundations.
Democratic operatives, right?
Big time. They had nonprofits and all kinds of.
And he was the number 2 donor to the Democratic Party.
That's right.
Which is
That's
crazy.
right. That's right.
And you're doing that to kind of buy your way through this.
That's what it seemed like to me. Yeah.
Because you're doing shenanigans,
Big time.
And they're all also doing amphetamines and
I mean, he was
polyamorous
he was
relationships in the Bahamas. Like
it's a polycule, Joe. It's just a polycule. I mean, it was sad for these kids because they were just all excited and doing stuff, and I mean, when I've raised money from Kleiner Perkins and Sequoia Capital, and when you get them all googly gaga over, oh, this guy was so cool. He was sitting in the pitch meeting and he was playing a video game. But he's such a genius. I mean, what? Are you kidding me?
Right.
Venture capital investors are not necessarily the most sophisticated.
Well, they want results, and if they're getting results, they'll put on the blinders.
What I was just reading about Elizabeth Holmes.
Oh yeah, I love that story.
She got screwed.
She got screwed?
Oh yeah.
How so?
Well, okay. So she was in a situation where the so-called smartest investors in the world, which included Colin Powell, and everyone was in on this deal. Everyone's like, "You got to get your money in now. Bring everybody in. We got this big fund. This is going to be it. This is the blood test. It'll change medicine." And they hyped her up. They put her in the magazines. They got on. She was looking like the female Steve Jobs, and she got caught up in it. And
But you're taking
falsified
agency away from her.
No,
she
no.
changed her voice. She started dressing like Steve Jobs. She started lying about results. She fired people that didn't go along with it.
Yes. But does she deserve to go to jail for 10 years for ripping off people who were stupid?
Yes.
Really?
Well, you can't rip people off.
I think you.
It's fraud.
I think you have restitution and things that you can do.
Hundreds of millions of dollars people lost. Like, that's not restitution. You don't have that money. You're not going to pay it back because your product sucks. So they've dumped all this money and lost.
It's a civil crime, and there's definitely some blame on the investors, but the investors were too big to look stupid. So I think they pushed a little bit more on her than she does. I'm not trying to defend her falsification.
Do you think she should go to jail at all?
Yeah, but not for 10 years.
How long? A couple days?
Yeah, just a couple days. Yeah, just enough to transition, Joe. Yeah, just enough to become a dude, and then we're good to go. No, I mean, it's just another example of big money being stupid, and maybe they could just admit that. Like they pushed her. I know how it goes. I remember we had a Pod Show, which was a lot of sophisticated investors, Kleiner and Sequoia. This is like the same people. Elon. I met Elon when they launched Tesla. I was at the hangar where they did the first test drives. It was interesting, and I was like, this guy seems like on the spectrum. He's not really talking much. It's like what's going on here? It's like what's happening with this. And so we were doing podcasting. So this is right after, maybe a year after Steve Jobs put it into iTunes and the iPod, and so there was money coming in. And the first thing they said is, you've got to be in San Francisco. Well, if you want a media company, where's the last place you want to be? Is San Francisco. You need to be L.A. or New York. No, you got to be here. And
why did they want you to be in San Francisco?
So they could come and see the office and check out the operation and make sure their money's being spent well. And
how often are they going to visit?
Oh, you have no idea. They're always dropping by and like, what's going on? And so you're doing reports, and
they just want to hang out with the cool guy.
That too, maybe. But then, it was definitely a struggle. We were actually kind of profitable for a bit there, but it was like GoDaddy ads with promo codes, code Bongino. I mean, it was like
right.
It was like, are people really listening, or are they just using the codes? And there's always a lot of scams.
Like the honey scam?
Well, no, not like that. No, there's scams of when companies we didn't do this, but when companies need to raise more money in Silicon Valley, then they'll buy some traffic from bots. And I'm sure it happens with comedy videos too. People are like, I need some traffic on this video. Let me buy some bots on something.
Oh, you definitely can do that, right?
Right, of course.
Yeah.
But then at a certain point, YouTube had come out, YouTube. Everyone has to do video now. You got to do video. You can't do audio. Got to do video. And then it got even worse. Like we sat in a board meeting and like, have you seen Juiced? I'm like, do you remember Juiced?
No.
Joost.
Oh yeah,
It was
what
the guys
that?
who built Skype. They built this video platform that was basically a peer-to-peer streaming television shows. And there was no doubt about it. You've got to go video, be more like Juiced, make your interface like Juiced. So at a certain point, you're like, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to risk running out of money? Am I going to listen to what they say? Do they really know what they're talking about? And ultimately, the company ran for 10 years and no one exited. It just kind of got folded into other things. So it was not a great investment of their money or my time, honestly.
Well, it's kind of amazing that the big video platform is still just YouTube. And now, YouTube just passed Netflix now as the most watched thing on television.
Oh, they're the big. They're not even counted in the streaming data in the streaming wars. But yeah, they're the big. I have YouTube TV. I cut the cable. I don't have cable anymore. It's like
I watch YouTube on TV more than I watch anything because there's so much variety. There's so many different things you can search. The fact that you could essentially find anything, like if I'm interested in, some particular region of the world of ancient history, I just punch that into YouTube, and I have hundreds, if not thousands, of videos on it.
It took them a long time to make that profitable inside of Google because if you see how many videos are being uploaded daily and transformed into digital video, and I mean it's crazy the amount of computation that goes into YouTube and the amount of bandwidth that is being sent. So I think it took a long time. They never really reported the numbers. They've only done that in the past couple of years with how much revenue. Now, of course, YouTube is making bank. I mean, it's an incredible
It's just shocking
system.
that no one has come up with anything even remotely close.
It would take too much money. It's so much investment that goes into doing that. It's a lot. I mean, you remember your bandwidth cost back in the day, pre-Spotify. Think how do you solve that when you have 100 million videos being posted every single day?
Yeah, you can't.
I mean,
you'd have to
insane.
have billions of dollars in startup money, and then you're still struggling to get people to use your app. Like, you remember that
It's
one
not
company
possible.
that came up? Was it Quibi? What was it?
Yes.
Was that what it was? They spent so much money.
Was it Katzenberg? Katzenberg and
I do not
It
remember.
was a Hollywood thing. It was
It was a
Quibi.
Hollywood
I think
thing.
it was Quibi, Jamie.
And they got a bunch of famous people to do short videos.
Short drama.
Yeah.
And they put $2 billion in and
Yeah.
gone.
They blew it real quick.
Because you can't
You can't manufacture something that
a
goes
success.
viral.
No,
Yeah.
you can't. And that's kind of like TikTok. We talked about TikTok last time. I think I was here, and obviously it's not an issue now that China is spying through TikTok because it's still here. I think, as I told you then, I think it's because they were eating Silicon Valley's lunch. Doing $4 billion, taking away revenue from them, and just looking at the people who sponsored the bill. It seemed like they had a lot of donations from Google and Amazon. That just seemed to me like there might be some issues there. But what people misunderstand about TikTok is it's not just about the videos and the format and how it flies by. It's about the shop. The shop is their magic sauce. If you look at the back end, the influencers who get paid on TikTok, they have this whole back end with rankings and who sold more stuff. Half the videos on TikTok, once you get out of your algo, half of them are about products. And people are, just selling products. And it's all from China, and it's all been coming in under the $800 de minimis tax regulation. So there's no import duty or anything paid on it. They actually have, I think Temu now has warehouses in America. So it's just Chinese crap that we're buying over and over again. It's wildly successful. It's not really about the ads on do you get ads on TikTok? A lot of ads?
I don't use a TikTok.
Okay, good. Yeah. So when it was going to go away, I'm like, I got to get this app. I got to see what happens. I was like, this is going to be crazy. So I get the app, and I'm using my my Graphene OS phone, so I can lock off all access. All it had was my location. Can't hide that from the IP address, and my name. So
You can get TikTok on a Graphene phone?
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, and you can actually block it from accessing your contacts. Block it
But that
from-
was too much for you. You had to go to a flip phone. That's interesting.
Well, it's my experimental thing. And so all it knew was Adam Curry in the Hill Country. And I think it went Curry, black name, Hill Country. There's probably about 50 churches where he is. Boom, right away. I'm getting black preachers, Hellstone, Brimfire. Oh, yeah. And it's just like, and on and on and on. It's been phenomenal. And some of these guys are pretty good. The ones that fall back, it's like, and the guy catches them every single time. And so their algorithm is just give that person more of what they want. They're not trying to do like us, like Meta or I'm not sure about X how that works, but let me inject some people who are against it or have a counter argument. Like when I was on the last time and I talked about my coming to Jesus, dude, there were TikTok videos with millions of views of just this, this one bit, and if you looked at it one time, you get the same over and over again. You get all kinds of Jesus stuff back and forth. That's all. Not anyone going, yeah, you guys are crazy. This is no good. None of that. So it's a very friendly. It's kind of the Chinese model. It's like give people what they want and don't try to interject them or spin them up or get them angry and then throw an ad in their face when they're all emotional. So it's very different. It's a very different concept. So I don't know if it'll be worth anything to anyone buying it unless you have the shop portion. Without that, I don't know. Don't
you think they'd have all that too? I mean,
you got to have the products. If you got to have the cheap Chinese products, that's the problem. It's like, do you have that stuff? I mean,
you'd have to still be buying them from China.
Yeah, it's fun for for us, like different crazy people. I mean, Dvorak uses it all the time. He's in an algo of just nut jobs. He's like blue hair. Look at this. He plays clips on the show. I'm like, dude, you got to do something else with your life during the day.
It's just amazing how many of those kooky people are getting so much traction. And that was the thought that it was a Chinese psyop, that they were accentuating all these people, and that was like ruining the culture of America because it was showing you all these blue-haired psychopaths with beards and lipstick and nail polish.
It's really, so I heard the same thing I heard people saying, dude, you're wrong. They want to get rid of TikTok because that's where MAGA lives. I'm like, huh? And then it was because that's all they got. They got MAGA,
right? Because that's what offends them. So they
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's very social media. The internet in general was kind of a bad idea. It's kind of hurt. It's good for many things, but there's two sides of the same coin. There's good and bad. I mean,
why would you say it's a bad idea though? I think it's a great idea.
Well,
I mean, you were just talking about to shift the balance of information.
Because of the PSYOPs. If we're not aware of the PSYOPs, the DARPA, the Defense Agency Research Project Agency? I had too many agencies in there. DARPA.
Yeah.
Since the 70s, they've been looking at social networks. And really there's a guy, he came up with the law of large numbers. And they figured out that in a computer network, regardless of the content, depending on if you have enough nodes, you can predict where the information will flow. So if I'm talking about something here, if they boost the right nodes, they can predict where that information will go. And that's how I don't think even Elon can stop that from happening. It's not an algorithm thing. It's literally like a law of nature thing that that's the way it will flow, and you can start injecting things through the right nodes and you'll propagate some message. And I mean, I think it's happening all the time everywhere. I mean, once you start looking, it's like, well, where's that coming from?
Well, I think we need to educate people on how to digest social media. And I think you should treat it the same way you treat junk food. And I think there's certain aspects of social media that are really interesting, and I like them. I mean, most of what I get on social media is what my friends send me. So that's how I do it.
Sure.
And this is how I stay sane. Is like my friends send me wacky things, and I go, oh my god, what is this? Like my friend Christina Przitsky, she sends me like the nuttiest, like trans activists screaming and nutty guys who think that they're women. And then me and Tom Segura, we exchange murder videos. And car accidents and animal attacks. And then,
before breakfast?
No, I try not to in the morning, but sometimes I have to check my text message because I have business stuff. I have things going on, guests and this and that, and so I do check. But it's very intoxicating to just sit there on the toilet and just start scrolling.
Toilet scroller.
But you gotta develop discipline, and discipline's important for every aspect of your life. You have to know like when you've had too much.
But that's not easy for young kids.
Right, it's not. But I think they can learn just like they've learned everything else in this world. And
but you need parental guidance, and most of the parents are hooked on it themselves.
Well, I think they need a message, and I think this conversation is part of that message. I think kids need to realize like you are wasting time. Like if you spend 2 hours just scrolling through TikTok, you have wasted time. And there's stuff that you probably should be doing, and you're going to be depressed if you don't do those things. You're going to feel weird. You're not going to feel satisfied. You're not going to feel like you're on a good path. You're going to like not have a lot of respect for yourself if you just like sit on the couch all day and scroll through TikTok, which many people listening to this have done a whole day, just sitting there eating chips, scrolling through TikTok, and just wasting your day. That is possible to do. I think there's ways that you can incorporate it into your life where it's interesting, and I've got good algorithms now, especially on YouTube, but pretty good algorithms on Instagram too, where most of the stuff it's showing me is stuff I'm actually interested in. So
do you get those videos when you're interested in a topic, and then there'll be like 5 different videos that are being suggested to you, and about 5 minutes in, you're like, this is just an AI voice that's cobbled a whole bunch of old things together, and it's a new version of it, and I'm not learning anything?
Yeah,
there's a
always
lot
those.
of that.
There's always those too.
A lot of
I think
that.
YouTube is the best because like I'm interested in specific subjects, right? Like I'm a car nut. I love old cars in particular.
This, by the way, lots of people love restored things. People love restored cars. We love. You have. I think. Do you still have your car?
Which one?
The Corvette.
Oh yeah.
I mean, beautifully restored. Just peak. Last time I saw it, which was I think in L.A.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
This is what I think the president is doing. He's trying to restore us back to being that great American muscle car. And I think everybody loves a beautiful restored muscle car. You know what I mean?
Well, America's making real muscle cars right now. Like this is one of the rare times where America's got very exciting automobiles that are out now. We've talked a bunch of times about the Corvette ZR1, which is breaking all these laps.
Is that the mid-engine?
Is the mid-engine 1,000 horsepower Corvette.
Tina won't let me buy one. I'm like, let me buy. No,
why not? You got to put your foot down.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Oh,
no,
Mommy tells you what to do.
No. She's like, that's a douchebag car. So yeah, for me it would be kind of douchey.
Why?
I mean,
it's awesome. Don't think that way. That's silly.
Ever since I started flying 350 miles an hour, I don't care about how fast I go on the ground, Joe.
It's not even how fast you go.
It's just.
Well, that's why I like old cars, because it's not even how fast
I had a C5, though. I did have a long time ago.
Those are cool.
Yeah,
they were a little shitty, actually. They really got good around C7. C7 was nasty.
That heads-up display was cool, though. It's like
C5 had a heads-up display?
Yeah, it had a heads-up display.
Look at that. That's the new one. That's the ZR1. Come on, son. That is not a douchebag car. That's a goddamn American work of art.
Yeah.
That's a fucking American work of art.
Yeah, it's nice. Can I get my dog in it,
Look
though?
at that.
Can I get my dog?
How big's your dog?
95 pounds.
What is he?
She is a Great Pyrenees Akbash rescue mutt.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, completely white.
I didn't mean to misgender your dog.
Yeah, she's very angry.
Look how awesome that looks, man. You don't have to take your dog everywhere. Reward yourself, Adam Curry. You're the podfather. Get a fucking Corvette. Look at that thing.
That's beautiful.
It's a cockpit inside of that thing.
That is beautiful.
And the performance of that is unparalleled. It's an amazing automobile.
A friend of mine, because he's a real American car nut. He just bought a Tesla Model 3. And he bought it for the autopilot. He says, I wish this came in 16-cylinder, multi-turbo. He says,
oh, yeah.
But he says the autopilot, he just loves that. He loves the autopilot.
I have a Plaid. I have a Plaid Tesla, the 4-door larger sedan Plaid.
Does it have the autopilot?
Oh, yeah.
Full self-drive?
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I don't use it that much. I like to drive. But just the capability of the car is amazing.
Yeah.
The speed and the effortlessness in which it merges with traffic and just takes off. with no sound.
It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. Yeah.
But it's
yeah.
different. So I like old air-cooled Porsches.
I had a
And they're not
911 a long
fast.
time ago.
They're not
Yeah.
fast.
Mm-mm.
They're not fast.
Did you have a manual?
compared.
Manual?
Yeah,
with the truck
always.
clutch. Like, you got to push that thing in.
Well, they're floor mounted too. They're different. The old Porsches are different. But it's what they are is a physical experience.
Yeah.
It's like a ride. It's a fun, exhilarating experience where you hear the engine, you're shifting the gears yourself. It's exciting and engaging. And that is more important to me sometimes than just speed. Like
Yeah.
I don't need to go fast. It's
Yeah,
not even about going fast.
it's
It's
the
about
whole experience.
yeah, you're feeling the rear end brake a little with your ass. As it
Can't do
fucking
that
kicks
anymore in these
sideways.
modern cars, man.
No.
It doesn't work anymore. We used to put Porsche engines into VW buses back in the
Oh,
day.
Jesus.
That was awesome.
That was probably
You could
fun.
you can fit it in a Beetle too. You can fit
Sure.
a Porsche engine into a Bug.
Oh yeah, a lot of people have done
Yeah,
crazy
yeah.
Beetle transformations where they've hyped up Porsche engines and put them in the back of those things. Yeah, there's a whole like modding community of Beetle freaks that take Beetles and
They're
juice 'em up.
Volkswagen. They're
Yeah.
Volkswagen. Remember how many there were in the 70s coming in from Germany?
Yeah.
We all had I had a 1303. I loved my Beetle. It was the
when I was
best.
a kid, my friend Jimmy had one. He had a Beetle. It was just cheap on gas. It was easy to drive.
Mine was like I had to jump start it because the lock had broken. So like
So you jump started every time you
jump
got
start
in
every
it?
time you got in, and then I'd lost my gas cap, and so I just had a rag in there.
Oh, God.
And if I went around the highway to the right, and if my tank was too full, then gas would leak out, and my front tire would start to slide off.
Oh,
It's
Jesus.
It was back. We were 18.
Yeah.
Just like, I got to drive this thing. It was great. I loved that. Was a good. We weren't scrolling on TikTok, Joe Rogan. We were doing dangerous stuff.
That's true.
We were jump starting our cars, and
I think we're lucky that we've seen both. We've gone through. We grew up in a time where there was no internet, and you were going outside to do things, and people did physical activities. But then, as we got older, we recognized that there's this new technology that's connecting the whole world in this weird way, and we're getting to experience it as people who know the world before that. I think we're real lucky.
Well, you're a big part of a change, certainly in young men. I mean, I've seen so many young men who follow you and follow your workout regime and listen to you. They listen to you about what you're saying about health, about food, and you're an important voice in that regard. You've really, really helped a lot of young men in our country and far beyond. I know you don't take compliments like this well, but it's very important what you've done.
I'm very happy if that's
very,
true.
very
Just-
important what you're doing.
There's a lot of young men that just feel like real disconnected to the world. And like nothing seems to be anything that is interesting to them. And they're being pushed into this box where someone's trying to turn them into a fucking chihuahua. This is like the evolution of the wolf into the dog. That's what's happening with men. Like for some reason, men are supposed to be neutered.
There's in the 60s. So I've been ever since I got saved and become a believer. I've really learned about our American history, and I've been blown away by how much. Because there's a lot of you can talk about the 60s and when they outlawed psychedelic drugs and put it on Schedule 1. That was the exact same time when the Bible was basically taken out of school, and it was I think the church in general kind of went into itself and kind of became a thing you do over there on Sundays.
Can we pause real quick? Because I got to take
You gotta
a leak real
pee?
bad.
You gotta pee? Yeah.
Let's pause. We'll come back. We'll talk about Jesus. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
All right, we're back.
Yeah. Oh man.
Much better, right?
Thank you.
So we were going to talk about the vaping thing because
Sure.
you're saying that there's nothing wrong with vaping.
Well, I didn't say there's nothing wrong with vaping.
So what is that? Can I see it?
Yeah.
Can
of
I
course.
hold it?
Yeah.
So this is a brick. Man, you could hurt somebody with this. If you wanted to fuck somebody up,
Well.
if you get a good grip.
Yeah. No,
I
you
grip
just
it. I grip it
It's like
that.
brass knuckles almost.
Yeah.
Like holding a roll of pennies.
Yeah. No, you wouldn't do that. You're gonna break your hand. That's all silly.
That's why I carry my gun.
That's probably better.
That's the battery. The battery.
This is heavy.
So when I gave up, I've always
Can I take a pull of this?
Yeah. So it's the
How do you
top,
do it?
the top button.
Press the
yeah,
button?
press it and just suck.
What is the flavor of this?
Tobacco-ish.
Tobacco-ish.
Yeah, it's tobacco basically. So
That was a little hit.
Yeah, you kind of
take
got
a big one, right?
Let it warm up a little bit. Let it. Press the
you go.
button, and then there you go. It's
Oh,
crackling.
crackling.
Yeah, go. There you go.
Oof. That's definitely different than the gas station ones.
Oh, you don't want those. This is organic juice. It's got 0.3 percent nicotine. I wind my own coil made out of silver. The cotton is American-made cotton, not from China. No, I've got into this. Yeah.
Cotton? What's the cotton for?
So if you look at the mechanism, see?
Okay.
So the cotton sucks up the juice, and then the coil warms
So
up.
the cotton's like the filter?
No, the cotton, it has the juice in it, and then when the coil warms up, it creates the vapor from the juice that's in it.
So do you have to constantly refresh the cotton?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so you just dunk your cotton in the juice?
No.
It's
It's
the juice is inside.
It's in the tank. Yeah,
Okay.
It has little wires in there,
And
so
you just
it crawls
put new
up.
cotton in every now and again?
Yeah, and winds a new coil from time to
How
time.
long do you have to wait before you put new cotton in?
It depends. I do it usually once every couple of days.
That doesn't give me the weird head rush that the gas station ones do.
That's Chinese crap.
That's what I like, though. I like that
All right.
weird head
Well,
rush.
good luck to you.
I would like the first hit. That's what you like off the gas station vapes. It's like you're chasing the dragon. You get
That's
that
bad.
first
That's
hit, and you're
bad.
like, first hit's like,
So there was.
relaxing. And then after that, you never get that again.
So I really got into this. There was a store in Fredericksburg called Vaporlicious. They've retired now. They've retired. Jerry and Kathy, and they're two old hippies from.
Why do they make it so unwieldy?
Well, you can get all kinds of different versions, but I'm a serious user, so I need this whole battery. I have a whole kit with me, man. I got a screwdriver to open this up
And
put
that
a new
doesn't fuck
battery in.
with your lungs or your health or anything like that?
No, I've never felt this good.
Okay,
now-
and so this is different juice. So what is the juice? Because the thing about the actual oil is the issue, right?
Yeah.
And this is a thing like a lot of these cheap ones that you're buying off the gas station.
you don't know what's in there.
Right.
This is glycol, which is it's essentially the same stuff that's in the theatrical mist machines.
Okay.
Only much watered down, and all it does is just produce vapor. And so, what is vapor? Well, it's mainly water, and of course, you're mixing it with nicotine. And nicotine, that's the piece that I've always liked about smoking. But now I don't get the tar, I don't get all other contaminants, and I also don't get high. I stop. I kind of stopped. I used to smoke a lot of weed.
Yeah.
I stopped. It's just I haven't felt like doing it anymore. Like a glass of wine, but no. And so this, I do have Gorilla Grip on it. It's like everywhere I go, I'm like, "Where's my vape? Where's my vape?" So
Right.
I'm
Addicted.
fully aware I'm addicted to more the motion of it because I would roll up, I could roll them with one hand behind my back. I've been doing it so long. So a real spliff with tobacco, with weed, and then it will go out, and I put it down, and I come up, pick it up again. At a certain point, it was like 3 a.m. I'd wake up like, I think I'll go roll a joint. I smoke a whole spliff, go back to bed. I mean, it got to be a little. I was smoking a lot, and without it, I'm very productive, Joe. I gotta tell you, I'm super productive. I'm
Well,
doing all
nicotine
kinds
is
of
very
things.
good for productivity.
For
As
me,
is caffeine.
It can work. Well, those are my two drugs. Caffeine and nicotine. I kind of dig it. I really do.
They're very
nice.
good for productivity.
Yeah. Is there any bad stuff? I mean, I know it constricts your blood flow in your mouth and in other parts probably. I mean, obviously you're putting something in your stream, so I don't know. But you like those pouches?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But I wanted to see what happens if I took time off, and I went out of the country for 5 days and didn't bring him, and I was fine. Didn't bother me at all. I was like, I was wondering if I'd be like itching for one.
Like I'm okay on the plane. I can fly to Europe. I'm like, I'm okay. I don't need to
can
vape.
you go in the
but-
bathroom and just get a quick one in there on the plane?
This is a very bad idea. If you do not want to be caught vaping on the plane.
Oh, really?
Yeah, of course. I have.
Will that set off a fire alarm?
I don't know.
Can you blow it right into the toilet?
No, you can do what they call zero vape, which is basically you inhale and you just hold it in
Until the air
nothing
goes away.
comes out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, or I've done one of these like.
And then go under your jacket. Yeah, I know. I've seen people do that in
But
like the movie theater
that
and
is
stuff.
that is not approved behavior, so I do not condone that. It's okay. I can handle not vaping for 8 hours.
So
or
what's in
whatever.
the gas station ones when you're getting that?
Who knows?
What's in the oil?
Who knows? Who knows? That's maybe what killed some people early on in COVID. You know, it might have been bad. A lot of THC, of course. These pre-made cartridges. You just don't know what's in it. It's like, no, don't vape that stuff. Do not vape the pre-made things. I mean, this is fun. You get to learn how to do it. It's manufacturing. You know, it's you get into. I can really get into it. Like I got this diameter silver wire and 5. You know, you do 5 loops or 6 loops for different impedance. Oh yeah, there's a whole. I mean, this tank. You know, this thing is like it's. You try different. Must have 18 different vapes that I've tried. And like this is the one.
Somebody gave me one at one point in time. It was like. It was carrying around a phone. It was like I was carrying around. It was the size of your flip phone.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is ridiculous.
That's me, baby. That's me.
I don't want to have
me.
another heavy thing in my pockets or on my fanny pack. It's like,
yeah, no, this is okay. I mean, it's all right. And then this thing.
But you decided that the phone was too invasive, even with the graphene OS.
Yeah.
And you had to.
Yeah, because you could still do everything, just not being tracked. And so I used to go to bed. You know, we go to bed at the same time. You know, we always watch some stupid, like we're in season 7 of Seinfeld right now. You know, so we'll watch a half hour of stupidity, and then we go to bed. And I used to be on my phone, you know, for half an hour scrolling stuff or whatever. And then, you know, like, okay, I'm tired. Yeah, because my brain has been working overtime on whatever inputs I'm giving it. And now I'm like, well, there's nothing to scroll, so I just go to bed, and I'm out in 3 seconds. I'm like, I sleep. And I sleep all the way through, and I wake up in the morning. I'm refreshed. I feel good. I don't look at social media the first hour I'm up. I mean, I do Bible readings and stuff and devotionals, and I text a buddy of mine, and I'm ready, man. Then,
do you do social media in the morning?
No.
No,
almost not at all.
So when you do it from a computer? If you check it out at all?
Yeah.
And when you do that, one of the questions I had about that, does that do voice to text
It can.
from Andrew? Oh, that's a game.
However, of course, when you do that, Google is basically keeping your transcript. There's a company in Austin called Futo.
Wait a minute. So if you just text, it doesn't keep your transcript?
Oh, I'm sure it does. But I'm not sure how much of that it does, but when you speak into it, it goes to the Google servers. The Google server then transcribes it and sends it back to your phone. It's not happening on the phone. It's happening on Google servers, and they probably keep all of that, or my voice, or whatever. There's a company in Austin called Futo, F-U-T-O, and they have an open source voice-to-text system. They don't keep your transcripts, and they're some good guys. I've been messing with that. It's not quite as fast as
And will
Google.
that work on that phone?
Yeah, you can install
Really?
it. Yeah, just as an extra
But
keyboard.
do you ever send messages with Google Voice or with voice to text on that phone?
I've been using Futo.
Oh, you have been
Yeah,
on that
yeah,
phone?
Yeah.
So I use it on my phone all the time. Like when I'm in my car, I press the little button for
that
Apple
goes,
Siri.
Yeah, so You know, who knows what Apple's doing with that? You don't know. I mean,
Sending it right to China. All the memes.
maybe.
I don't know.
It's all right. It's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So I went to Boston. You lived in Boston, didn't
Yeah.
you? So we went to go see the Doobie Brothers, and
When was this?
last year.
Really? They're around.
Yes, and it was wild. It was in Massachusetts. It was one of these, like amphitheaters that's half covered, and we were the youngest people there. And people were sparking weed. You could smell the whole place. They're like 80-year-old dudes smoking doobies. It was like amazing. And the Doobie Brothers play, and it was like, it was the first 45 minutes is them doing it. This is from our album from 5 years ago. Dude, we want China Grove, give us Long Train Running. So eventually they get into that. But then they would, like Michael McDonald, What a Fool Believes. I love that song. He would do it syncopically, like, instead of doing the song like we all remember it, he'd do "What a Fool Believes." Like, no, don't do that. It was really disappointing. But the opening act was Steve Winwood. Steve Winwood's now almost 80 years old, and I get goosebumps just thinking about it. He railed, he wailed. He did, Mr. Fantasy from Traffic?
Sure.
Which that 3/4 of that song is a guitar solo. And he's just like, and go, and the crowd is going nuts. And he has all these young kids with him, and you see the close up on the screens, and they're like, dude, look at what he's doing. It was amazing. I bring it up because the next day, did you go out to Plymouth?
Did I go to Plymouth,
Yeah.
Massachusetts? Sure. Plymouth Rock.
Right. So Plymouth Rock is kind of disappointing because it's a rock. It's just a rock. And there's a structure around it, and okay, it's a rock. And there's a little sign next to it that says, we don't know that this was really the rock, but some guy in church who was 90 years old at the time said, yeah, I think this was the rock. So that's the rock. You were talking about the Georgia Guidestones a few episodes ago with somebody. Did you know that we have an actual Guidestone in America in Plymouth?
No.
It's called the Monument to the Forefathers. I'd never heard of this. It's about 2 blocks in, and it's, I think, arguably the largest granite structure in America, certainly, but maybe in the world. It was completed in 1890, and it is the Guidestone of America. And
How do I not know about this?
No one knows about this. This is here. Check it out. The thing is huge.
Whoa.
And it's literally in a cul-de-sac, a residential area.
Really?
There's no
How
ropes.
old is that?
It was completed in 1890 after 50 years of building it.
Wow.
And so this is the formula for America. This is where I was going before our pee break. The formula for America. So they constructed this so that if we ever lost our way, we could find our way back. You know, when they talk about America was built on Christian values, what does that mean? What does that even mean, Christian values? I mean, I don't think even the word Christian is that was actually a slur back in the day that they came up with for Jesus believers. So in the middle is faith. That's her name, Faith, and it's 4 sides. And one is law, education, morality, and liberty, and has all these cool inscriptions. It's really something amazing to see. And I believe that's the formula that we need to get back. You live like this. Joe Rogan lives these 4 sides. You understand law, morality, education, and liberty. And if we can get back to that, that would be just. In fact, so all of our early presidents, all of them live by the Bible. Every single one of them. They wrote about it. They studied it. 1778, one of the first acts of a Congress was to print a Bible for everybody. So I brought you, this is done by a group called the Wall Builders. And David Barton, he has these are the receipts. So it's a Bible, but it has 3/4 of that book is writings by our early presidents, all the way up through Reagan. And this David Barton guy, he has all of these originals. I think he lives in Aledo, Texas. And it shows you what our code was in the early days up until the 60s. And that's when, we got this big argument about, we can't have, the First Amendment is the right to establish a religion. And that has been perverted throughout the years to say, you can't have, the Bible in schools, and the government can't tell you to do this, and you can't be talking about. The Hall of Congress used to be a church. I mean, that's how we started. And you don't have to necessarily be a believer or saved by Jesus just to understand where we came from and the basic tenets of law, where those guys created it from. The receipts are in the Declaration of Independence. Our Bill of Rights, our amendments, are rights, not that the government gives us. They all say the government shall not infringe, the government may not do this. It's what the government could not do because we had rights given to us by our Creator. And I think if we got back to a little bit of that in America, we might get a bit more on path, which is why certainly all the Jesus freaks are like, President Trump is talking about God. He says God saved him to save America. I mean, a president is a big deal when he does stuff like that. And you can see, just look at the people around us, Russell Brand, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. I mean, there's a lot of people who are now starting to see this. And I know you love history. That's why I bought that for you. Because when you see where it comes from, a lot of things start to be clear. And that sculpture, that was like, I had no idea it was there. I'd never heard of it. It's not in any books. but it's kind of a template for where we came from. And I think it's kind of important that we look at that as well as, all the other things that we're looking at now with AI and social media. And we can't just be sitting around for 4 years going, yeah, Trump, yeah, Elon, stomp the libs. We've got to find some spirituality one way or the other. It doesn't have to be God. I would like it to be, but people got to find that.
I think you're saying some wise things. I think that people need some sort of a moral and ethical structure to live their life through. Jordan Peterson always has this thing, like
Another one,
whether or
yeah.
not, if you believe in God, if you live like you believe in God, you will live a better life. And that is true.
I believe it.
I think that's true.
I believe it, absolutely. And it's very
It's a
simple
moral
things.
scaffolding.
Yeah, it's very simple things. It's the 10 Commandments aren't that hard.
Right.
It's like that's your law. If you believe that government, government is an extension of God. If you believe that He instates governments, and I think that God gave us Joe Biden for 4 years. I really do. He said, "Y'all got to take a look." He has humor too, by the way. Like you should take a look. And there's a story. I think it's Daniel, about King Nebuchadnezzar. And King Nebuchadnezzar, he did not follow God's law. And so God turned him into a donkey, basically, and he was out grazing for 7 years, eating grass. I'm like, that sounds a lot like President Biden, that he just turned him into a grass-eating donkey who had nothing left, So this...
Well, you have to see what happens when things go sideways to really understand it. That's why people who grow up in poverty really can appreciate success a lot more than someone who's a trust fund kid, right?
Of course.
You have to know what it's like when things go bad. And our country just experienced 4 years of being governed by people other than the elected leader. And it's pretty clear now.
Yeah.
And the way Mike Johnson laid it out, that Biden didn't know what was in some of the executive orders.
I didn't sign that.
Yeah. Which is kind of crazy.
Crazy, man.
It's interesting because some of that, like how much can you attribute it to faulty memory and how much of it is actually they passed things by his desk. I don't know. But at the end of the day, we got to see that this was not a good direction. This is a terrible direction. And I think that was like one of the biggest mistakes that Kamala Harris did, was when she went on The View and they asked her, what would you do differently? And she said nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
Which is crazy.
But
to
also,
say.
look at President Trump. I mean, can you take a more wrong guy in the auspices and the opinion of presidential and everything? And he learned a lot during his first term. I mean, this was a turnaround of epic proportion. That, and I know
what's the biggest political comeback in the history of the world?
It'll be in the history books. This show will be a part of that. It's going to be incredibly important for us to look back on this because, like it's often the misfits. That's who we've got to love the most. So when I see the blue-haired people, I'm like,
right,
I really want to love them. They probably wouldn't understand it, but
crazy chaotic energy. If they just found something they loved and pushed it into that, they'd be better off. But it's like what damaged them up into that point. Like what kind of a life did they live that left them in this place where they're 35 years old, weeping in front of a city council meeting? Like, who are they and what went wrong? And this is the thing, is like we kind of encourage this victim mentality.
We do.
And we reward it. It has social credit to it. And you get to be in a special class of people and you get to say outrageous things. Yeah. And people allow you to, and that's not good for anybody. Just like you have kids, you know what it's like. It's not good for kids. Like you got to tell them, like, well, that's not real. Yeah. You can't do that. That's not yours. Like there's things that you have to learn, and if you reward victim mentality, then people look to become victims. And so that, like when that lady laid out all of her fucking physical ailments and all of her problems, as if that makes any of the things she's saying make sense. Because she has all these problems. Like, no, that's not how the world
But you're
works.
right. It's been rewarded. And it's been rewarded by political operations, mainly to get votes and to bring... These people have a vote, too.
Right.
They can vote, so bring them in.
This is a part of the PSYOP of USAID. Mm-hmm. And the PSYOP of just the government in general, these control structures that are essentially put in place to make sure that they remain in power.
You know John Perkins?
Yes.
Have you ever had him on?
No, I have not.
Oh man, because he wrote about this.
Economic hitman.
Yeah, Confession of Economic Hitman. Wow. I mean, basically, USAID, that's what they do, but also State Department. So, Marco Rubio seems like a good guy. I'm kind of liking him, but they've got intelligence units inside there. There's all kinds of things that happen with State Department. So I hope that also gets uncovered.
Well, Mike Benz was explaining yesterday. I was like, seems so intertwined. Like, how are you going to, what can be done in 4 years? He goes, no, this is going to take 50 years, more. He's like,
that may be true.
It's going to take forever to unwind. He goes, you have to understand how deep these tentacles go. And he laid it out in 4.5 hours yesterday.
Wow.
I probably talked for 3 minutes for the whole podcast. I'm not kidding. It was just
with Mike. You got to like,
Yeah.
Can I get the transcript of the show and go over it slowly? Because he goes fast.
Well,
man. He goes fast.
The thing that will happen is viral clips of specific things that he highlights and says that are very significant are going to go out. And
Yeah.
those are already out, and I'm sure they're all over X right now as we're speaking.
And I love that. Doge is. I was skeptical because we heard this during the Reagan administration. Reagan wasn't going to do all this. He was going to make government efficient, and of course it didn't. When I hear that they're going to do the same thing to the military, amen, man.
Yeah. Well, they have to be accountable to an audit.
Yes.
You can't.
They haven't
because-
done one ever.
Well, the Pentagon's failed 7 of them,
Yeah.
and the thing is, like, fraud's real. We know it's real, and we know people are pilfering. And if you go unchecked for long enough, that becomes a part of the way people do business. And once that's established, and it's been established for decades, then it's very difficult to stop, because as soon as you start investigating it, people go to jail. And so they're going to try to stop you from investigating it. They're going to try to like bury records, and it's going to get wild.
As I'm sure Mike told you, and I can't wait to see it, it's not just fraud. It is the actual system. Instead of us being open, and I think like Trump is doing, like, hey, we're just going to have tariffs on you. NATO, you don't like it? Boom, we're not going to protect you. We're going to be fair about this. You can't just be ripping us off. We've been doing all these subversive things with money that's just going to NGOs and nonprofits. I mean, the whole Ukraine thing.
He highlighted all of this.
Did he play the Victoria Nuland recorded phone call?
No, he
That's
didn't.
my
But he
favorite.
showed the Biden thing where he said, the prosecutor had to be fired, or they wouldn't get the $1 billion in loans.
Right.
And son of a bitch.
Well, Victoria Nuland in 2014, the Russians, I think, they recorded a phone call, and she's literally talking to the ambassador. Okay, we want to put this guy in the government, that guy in the government, this guy in Senate. Klitsch, leave him outside. He can be the mayor or whatever. I mean, that's not cool. We have some stuff to repent for when all this comes out, and we should pick ourselves up and move forward and just be honest. I think we can do it with a lot of honesty too.
I hope so. But the problem is there's a lot of people that are going to be in deep trouble, and they're going to try to stop that from all this accountability.
Was Mike bullish or bearish on it?
Well, he's in the storm. It's like no one knows exactly what's going to happen when you're in the middle of the hurricane. You're telling people what's going on, and that's where he is right now. I mean, I asked him, how do you sleep? He goes, I don't.
He needs prayers. He needs some prayers. For
I'm sure he needs that.
We'll cover him.
And
yeah.
I think his fight is very noble, and he's right. He's right, and he's accurate, and the amount of information that guy's got in his head is astounding.
Yeah.
And he's pulling it all off the top of his head while we're talking, because he lives this constantly.
Yeah.
Used to work at the State Department, uncovered all this stuff, has been chasing it down forever, and it is a legitimate historian on this.
And thank you for giving him that platform. And thank you for giving Trump a platform and all the things you've done. But the people, when they think of CIA and these types of agencies, they always think dart guns and secret stuff. But no, it's really subversive writing articles. And my whole family kind of comes from military and intelligence background. So I've heard. You know what I learned? This is crazy. So my uncle was big in the CIA. He was the national. He was basically Tulsi Gabbard to Bush Sr. when he was VP, and then Iran-Contra happened, and he basically became ambassador to Korea. He was exonerated, but he was moved out to a different post. My aunt passed away a couple of years back, and when my cousin was doing her eulogy, she said, "Aunt Meg, actually outranked Uncle Don in the CIA. She ran the Russia desk, spoke fluent Russian, but had promised never to tell anybody, not even her own kids. I'm like, what? Whoa. Aunt Meg spoke fluent Russian and ran the Russia desk for the CIA and outranked Uncle Don? Like, that's some crazy stuff. Crazy. And all those folks, they remember Russia as the real bad guys. I mean, I went to, this is my own USAID story. So in 1988, I think it was, we had the Moscow Music Peace Festival. Do you remember that?
No.
And this is before the wall came down, and it was, I was the only MTV person who went. We went on a 727 from Newark. It was Ozzy Osbourne, basically Black Sabbath. It was Bon Jovi, Motley Crue, Skid Row. We stopped in Germany to pick up the Scorpions.
What was that flight like?
Dude. Dude, this, you'll love this.
Look at you guys.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Wow.
So the
You were
reason
filming things even back then.
So the reason this happened was,
look at you.
Yeah, there you go. Tico Torres from Bon Jovi. I mean, so Doc McGee, who was the manager of Bon Jovi and Motley Crue, I'm paraphrasing the story, but I'm pretty sure it's correct.
That was Ozzy.
Oh,
I just realized that was Ozzy and Sharon Osbourne.
Oh, yeah.
Like, who are those people? I'm like,
look at Sharon. Look at Sharon.
I know.
She's like a
kid.
And like a British housefrau, nice roly-poly. She's not no O-face for her. So
O-face? Oh, Ozempic.
Ozempic, yeah. So
look at Ozzy.
So Doc McGee's Learjet had been caught smuggling in bales of marijuana into Florida. And his get out of jail free card was he was supposed to organize an anti-drug and alcohol concert in Moscow.
Ooh.
Right. So this is where I'm pretty sure USAID came into it and the CIA. And so this was supposed to be a complete drug-free, alcohol-free. We're all going to go there. We're going to do a huge one-night concert. We're there for a week. On the plane, Ozzy is so drunk. He's so drunk. So we're in the back there, and he's at the lavatory mid plane, and it's someone else is in there, and he's like, Cher, and she like, oh, Ozzy, and he pees his pants right there in the aisle. I'm like, holy crap. Ozzy peed his pants.
Sharon.
So this was a wild trip. And I got a briefing beforehand by some dudes in suits. This is 88, so I wasn't really thinking USAID, CIA, and they're like, here's the deal, you're going to be there. Do not talk to any women. Don't go to any hookers. Do not take any hookers to your room. They're all going to be KGB, and you don't want any part of this, and there's going to be, our people are going to be watching you. And just make sure.
hookers.
KGB hookers. We actually did go to the hooker boat, which was pretty wild.
There was a boat?
Yeah, they had a prostitute boat. The ugliest hookers in the world is like, nah, no one's going to.
Pirates.
We all kind of went to go check them out. We're in the hotel. They literally. This is Soviet Union still. They literally turned on the heat in that part of the city. It was winter, and the mattresses were made of straw. And you had to bribe the lady for a phone call. You'd reserve it 24 hours in advance. You have to give her tuna fish and toilet paper rolls. It was wild.
Wow.
Middle of the night, I'm with Sebastian Bach from Skid Row. We're outside. We go to Red Square. We're drinking vodka on Red Square at 3 a.m, walk back to the hotel. There's the Moscow Hells Angels show up. And they're on like these Yugoslav motorcycles, and they're popping wheelies and falling off. And we're like, what's going on? And then this Russian official comes up with, they had the really big hats, and he's like, tap, tap, tap on the back of one of the merch trucks, and all he wanted was T-shirts. And so, he gave him a whole bunch of T-shirts, everybody leaves, crazy. So we have this concert, and the kids they went nuts. Of all the bands, Bon Jovi, Motley Crue, Ozzy. They all knew Ozzy. They were all singing phonetically. Cries is high. They didn't know the words,
wow.
But the Crazy Train kind of came out of their mouth.
Wow.
And what was?
Look at this.
Yeah, it was insane. You can see all
Can you give me some volume?
There's some military in front, I think. There it is. Look at that.
and the crowd
Flying
loved him and
high
showed it.
again.
Fans stood in harmony for 12 hours to watch and listen to the likes of Bon Jovi, Motley Crue and Skid Row, who all agreed to play.
Wow.
So here's the kicker. The Scorpions had a #1 hit, Winds of Change. The winds of change. You don't remember the song. And it was the only song they did not write. And that song was the anthem when the wall came down, which happened literally. Oh, here you go.
The CIA did the
There you go.
CIA
There
write
you
a
go.
power ballad
There
to
you
bring
go.
down the USSR?
Yep.
What?
Yep.
Is that real?
I think so. I think so.
I don't remember that song. Can we play some of that song and cut it out, Jamie? Play it for us and cut it out. We'll cut this part out of the show, folks. Just go listen to Scorpions.
What a
Winds of
shame,
Change.
man. We could
We're
be
gonna-
psyoping more Germans.
1990.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a good fucking song.
Yeah. A CIA writes hits, baby.
That's crazy. The CIA wrote a banger.
A huge banger. A huge. And here's the funniest part. So when the wall comes down, this is #1. Like, it was 1990.
Right.
And I think, I can't remember, I think they might have been phonetically singing along with it in Lennon Stadium when we were there, because it was a #1 hit. It was everywhere, this
So
song.
this is a year before the wall
This
came
says
down?
this song was written
After?
after the concert, like in response to the concert.
Okay, yeah,
sort of.
okay. There, I told you I don't have it all right. But
But the CIA wrote it.
the CIA wrote it. They probably had it in the archives.
Oh, my God.
The funniest thing was, so huge in Europe at the time was Baywatch. You know the whole.
Sure.
Have you ever had Hasselhoff on?
No.
There's a funny guy. This guy,
He was on Fear Factor.
He
did Celebrity
Did
Fear
you like
Factor.
him? Did
Yeah,
you
he was a
like-
nice guy.
I mean, I've met him a couple times. He had to go to the bathroom a lot at the time, but whatever. MTV Beach House, like his manager would be like, "David, I think you need to go to the bathroom to get some energy."
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, but so the story of Baywatch is phenomenal because he self-financed it. Nobody wanted it in America,
Right.
and it became this monstrous global hit everywhere except America in the beginning. And he became wildly successful, rich. And Germany is where it was #1. It was just for years #1 Baywatch. And so Hasselhoff, or as they say, Der Hof is, hello Deutschland, here's the Hof. Everyone knew him. He was standing on top of the wall with a sledgehammer, and he claims that he brought down the Berlin Wall.
Was Baywatch a psyop? Is that what you got now?
I don't know. But,
Oh my God! Well, this is also part of the thing that Mike Benz got into with the music business, that they do sort of finance these,
Sure.
disruptive kind of songs and political movements. And
Sure.
yeah.
Of course. I mean, yeah. Yeah,
Well, that's
it's a powerful tool now.
That's the book about Laurel
There
Canyon.
he is. There he is.
Look at him.
He's bringing down the wall.
What is he singing? Oh, he was a pop
He had
star,
the
right?
disco hits. He had these poppy hits. Yeah.
And
Freedom, baby. I did it. And he got his glittering jacket on and everything. Awesome. American icon, ladies
that's
and gentlemen.
not even glittery. That's an LED jacket. Like that jacket's got a battery.
Oh, yeah. And
It's
of course,
lit up.
we loved him from Knight Rider. He was
yeah.
a cool dude. We all wanted a
Yeah.
kit watch,
Well, he
which we
was
now have, of course.
Huge overseas, right? He
That's
was-
it. It
Yeah.
was because of Baywatch, and he had a whole music career going on. And oh man, good times in the old days, bro. Good times. We had so much fun back in the early
That's
days.
so crazy that song was written by the CIA. That Laurel Canyon thing is really interesting because I really dismissed
Yeah.
it at first.
Yeah.
I was like, come on, the government didn't have nothing to do with the rock and roll movement, but kind of seems like they did. What is it? Strange Times in the Canyon. What is that book called again? I believe that's the name. Is that it?
Yeah.
Something along those lines?
Yeah.
It's a weird book, man.
Yeah.
I read the book and I was like, what the fuck? Like, how much of this is...
But when in the '60s, when the agents were infiltrating Europe, it was all literature, art, music. They were bringing everything they could, art especially. And that was really at the time to make sure
Weird
that
scenes
there you go.
inside the
There you go.
canyon.
To make sure that the Russians didn't take over Europe. There's all these things that they were doing.
Well, they also did it with the modern art movement.
Absolutely.
This is the other thing. Like Jackson Pollock is
Yeah.
a complete creation, which totally makes sense because I was like, who's paying for this?
Yeah.
Like, help me out.
Yep.
Like, no, don't you see the way the splatters are? Like, no,
That's
I don't.
why we're all questioning you, Joe Rogan. Yeah, what USAID connections do you have?
I think I skipped the system. I think somehow or another they fucked up.
Look
and
at
let
me,
through.
my whole family's intelligence and military. I was a pirate radio guy in 1983. They must have been like, this guy's lost. We can't use him. He'll be no good.
I mean, the real kooky people probably think you're my handler or something because you created podcasting.
That's right.
Because
yeah.
there is that thought that, like, this is one of the things that comes up now all the time. And we talked about this on CNN. We're saying that there's a whole financed and backed right-wing ecosystem that's created these podcasts.
Where's my check?
Well, this is just stupidity. This is the problem where when you look at some conspiracies, you think, oh, well, that applies to all things.
Yeah.
That no, there's actually some things that are organic
Well,
for some weird reason.
What I think we'll see, the first thing after the election is, we need a Joe Rogan on the left. We need a Joe Rogan. Well, guys, you basically had a Joe Rogan on the left, but you were so crazy that Joe started to think right.
They didn't want me. That was the thing. Like,
they didn't want you?
But that's all the psyop working against them. Because in the past, they could take someone like me and demonize them, and it would be effective. And they could just remove you from the airwaves.
Right.
And then remove you as a problem because you're not playing by the rules. But now people go, oh, you know what? I think he's the one who's actually telling the truth. Let's stop listening to them. And so then CNN crashes, and then faith in mainstream media crashes, and faith in podcasts rises.
I think what we'll see, though, is, and it may come from YouTube, we'll probably see them try to hype someone up to become the Joe Rogan of the left.
Oh, they're already definitely doing that. But
who do
the
you
thing
think it is?
I don't care. Who gives a fuck? Let them try.
All right.
But the thing is, it's not going to work unless that person's authentic. Because
without authenticity, it doesn't
if you
work.
hear a person long enough, you know what the fuck they're really saying. You know whether or not.
That's right.
I'm wrong all the time. You might not agree with me. That's all great, but I'm not going to lie. And that's the difference.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people are just propagandists. And they're also trying to make an argument for something without looking at the other side, which instantaneously I know now you're propagandizing. Now you're not. Now you're bullshitting me. I always try to look at the other side of everything.
I know you do.
As a human, I think it's an important quality. As a person who's like broadcasting to millions of people, it's a very important quality. But it's an important quality for human beings. Like, know why you think about something. Like, no, is this just a knee-jerk reaction? Or is this well thought out? Are you being objective, or are you captured by this ideology that you're a part of to the point where you're just ignoring? Like, this is the thing that I find fascinating about all this USAID stuff. Because there's so many people that are so against Donald Trump dismantling the organization that they're not looking at the craziness of all the propaganda that's being exposed. They somehow or another are gaslighting themselves and all their followers to say that, no, this is aid. People are going to starve to death. There's food that's rotting. But meanwhile, I'm pretty sure, even when they passed this thing where they were trying to put a stop on USAID, they gave exemptions for food and medicine.
Yeah,
So
so
you're hearing these bullshit stories of like food that's rotting now and people are going to go starving. Everyone's dying of AIDS. Like,
well, you have figures who people see as authority because they have 1 million followers and likes, and then they'll believe that. And it typically doesn't work. I mean, it's like, do you remember?
I think it works, but it works for less people. There's people
Well, yeah,
that want
clearly.
to. They want to be lied to. They want to believe the cult. They want to drink the Kool-Aid. They want to.
Yeah.
And that is where they've dug their heels in, and now this is where they stay.
But when you see Rachel Maddow, who has come back, for the first 100 days, she's doing a show every single day, and she's blatantly lying. I mean, literally, like, factually, clearly lying. A lot of people won't watch anything. They've been told Joe Rogan is part of the broadcasting and this right wing conspiracy, all funded by whatever to propagandize, and people are going to go over there and they're going to believe what she says. And I mean, I have family members who truly believe that President Trump will take away their Social Security. Like, he's saying quite the opposite. And by the way, he can't take it away. Only Congress can take it away. USAID created by executive order by President Kennedy can be shut by executive order by President Trump. That's just a fact.
Or also, what they're doing is they're highlighting there's people that are supposedly 150 years old that are getting Social Security.
Awesome. I need some of that.
There's some weird shit going
Yeah,
on with
yeah.
Social Security.
But you know what happened? I think this is what we're not being told, but I have a lot of sysadmin friends. From what I understand, the Doge team, 4 guys initially, they were in. So the Treasury is like our bank account. It's one system, and it sends payments through the Federal Reserve System. And all they needed to do, January 21st at midnight, they were in there. They got all the payments. They've had that at Mar-a-Lago. They've been, because I've heard this, that they've been going through it like, hey, there's no reconciliation. There's just a payment with no purchase order or no confirmation that the work was done. I think at this point they're just sitting back going, they can release more information whenever they want. Department of Education is going to be next. You're going to see a lot of Common Core craziness. I mean, remember that Common Core? The Pentagon. I hope they do the State Department too, because there's a lot going on there.
It's going to be interesting to see what resistance.
Well, the people who are squealing are the ones you want to pay attention to.
Right. Well, that's the thing is that, first of all, we were talking about this the other day. Me and my friends are saying part of the problem is these people can't conspire right now because all their phones are tapped. Everybody that, for sure.
Yeah.
Like if they're investigating you, if they're investigating these things, like the power that they have
is astronomical.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
The power that they have to look into people's emails, look into people's phones, find out what text messages they're sending. They can look into your signal. All that's
Pegasus, baby.
Yeah, they look into everything.
Yeah.
So the idea that they're not doing that, if they're in the middle of some fucking multi-trillion-dollar investigation into rampant fraud, so they know that this is going on. So they can't conspire. And then they also have to worry about people taking deals. So there's going to be some people that squeal.
Good point.
And so then you don't know who's your fucking enemy and who's your friend. And everywhere you talk, you go to have a lunch with someone, he's wearing a fucking button camera.
Yep.
You could be fucked. And so they're not united right now.
Yeah.
And this is why it's working. And this is why they're able to release all this information. And everybody's in this hot panic right now.
Yeah. So they're squeezing them. They're squeezing them because they have it all. And thank God for James O'Keefe too, man. He's done some interesting stuff over the.
He certainly has.
Over the years, he like gets people to. It's amazing how many guys will open up when they think they're on a date with a hot chick or a hot guy, whichever one that happens to be, and like, oh yeah, man, I'm doing all this. Yeah, we do. Oh, we don't care. We just hated Trump, and it's like, whoa. These people, they need to learn how to shut up.
I think he just got another video that he released today.
Oh, yeah? There
was another video today about people going around the Doge system to try to like still do the same work.
Bro,
there was an issue with
season of reveal, Joe.
Yeah, wasn't there an issue with FEMA releasing? Is this true?
Well, so FEMA paid $59 million for illegal entrance into our country for them to stay at the Roosevelt Hotel, which is double the room rate. Have you ever stayed at the Roosevelt Hotel in
I did
Manhattan?
way back in the day. And the Roosevelt Hotel, by the way, is owned by Pakistan.
That's right. And it was a dump. Everyone was smoking weed in their rooms. I mean, I was there maybe 10 years ago, 11 years ago. I stayed at the Roosevelt Hotel.
It was falling apart a little bit.
It was very cheap. Right there on 42nd Street.
Yeah.
So they were paying double the room rate. But this isn't just in the United States. This has been happening all over the world. This is a gigantic scam.
4 federal employees were fired Tuesday over payments to reimburse New York City for hotel costs for migrants. Department of Homeland Security officials said the workers were accused of circumventing leadership to make the transactions, which have been standard for years, through a program that helps with costs to care for a surge in migration. However, officials did not give details on how the 4 had violated any policies. But they put a freeze on the payments.
Oh, he said luxury hotels, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, in quotes. So did they definitely do it? So wasn't Anderson Cooper disputing it?
I don't know.
He was saying yesterday, he was talking to Sununu, and he called him a dick.
But
don't be a dick.
Go to Chicago. All the hotels on the Miracle Mile are all migrant hotels.
Yeah.
Because it was super good money. I mean, it's
crazy.
But that's everywhere in the world. That's the same in Europe. A big hotel chain, like you can't get a hotel room because they've got migrants for double the price.
Well, this is
Why
something that the Biden administration lied about because they said that FEMA funds were not being used. for this, but they were.
I'm with President Trump that it's better, when Helene happened, what happened there was really beautiful because everything fell down. Even North Carolina's their own state government. No one really was doing anything. And it was funny enough for the first time I've ever seen ham operators actually be successful. But the helicopter guys were all going out there. Everybody was pitching in. People were driving from all different states to come in and help people. I mean, I don't have a helicopter anymore, but I literally called up the airfield. I said, fill them up. Here's my credit card. Fill that one. Just fill them up. Fill up until this limit that I have. Fill up these. I know what it costs. You burn a lot of money in a helicopter. This is how America works. It really works well when we help each other out in all kinds of circumstances. And we've become so reliant on the government, so reliant that, Uncle Sam is going to come in and save us. And it turns out they're not really efficient at it. They're not really good at it. A lot of money gets stuck and flows to other places. We've got to come back to loving our neighbor and knowing your neighbor. How many people don't even know their neighbor anymore? Right. This is critical. And I think you have this, when Clinton was president, everything changed in America. All of a sudden, oh, that's not sexual relations. Oh, you can do that to me, baby. That's not actually sex. All these kinds of things, that sets a tone. It sets a cultural tone. And Trump is setting a cultural tone of let's get this done. Let's stop getting ripped off by other people, by ourselves, and let's be successful together. And it's a short amount of time. So I hope that...
But isn't it interesting that half the country doesn't see it that way?
Well,
half
less,
the country
less than
sees
half.
it as a constitutional crisis.
Well, that's just a term. It's not a.
I know,
not
but
a
it's interesting.
constitutional
That's what's being. Top FEMA official is fired over payments. New York City migrant shelters. Trump administration fired the Federal Emergency Management Agency's chief financial officer and 3 others after Elon Musk misleadingly claimed the agency had used disaster relief funds for migrant services. Wait a minute, is this New York Times?
This is just going to be back and forth forever.
Misleading. What is misleading about it? So let's see here.
Misleading.
New York City officials raced to clarify that the federal money had been properly allocated by FEMA under President Biden last year, adding that it was not a disaster relief grant and had not been spent on luxury hotels. Nonetheless, just 2 hours after Mr. Musk's post, FEMA's acting director Cameron Hamilton announced the payments in question have all been suspended, even though most of the money had already been dispersed and that personnel will be held accountable. But is this a recent payment, and did they put a freeze on payments, even if the payment had been properly allocated by Biden?
What I was reading is they just pulled the money out of bank accounts.
Who did?
It says Trump administration. Trump revokes $80 million from New York City after threat. I'm seeing this on multiple websites, but I don't know.
Can you go to the title there on Daily News? Oh, hold on, sorry. You just had it there.
That's right here, too.
Oh, Trump revokes $80 million from New York City after threat to claw back FEMA cash used to care for migrants. But it's still money to care for migrants, and they still put a freeze on that money to care for migrants.
That's your constitutional crisis.
Yeah.
We're in a constitutional crisis because of what's happened to our country.
But that seems like gaslighting to justify spending $80 million to pay for migrants, which they shouldn't have done.
No.
But it's not just that. It's fly these people there, fly them into the country, let them into the country, and then pay for them with EBT cards, with
well, a lot of that was the economics.
Yeah.
I have a friend, former New York banker, and he said, we always win as long as our population is growing. We will beat China long term because their population is declining. And he says that's why the borders are open, is because it's just like economics. You need more people. And with more people, your economy grows one way or the other.
I think it's a multifaceted argument because I think that's...
I'm just telling you what the bankers say.
I think there's some truth to that, but I think also they were trying to buy votes.
All of that's a part of it.
You saw the thing in New York where they were trying to let people who are illegals vote in regional elections.
Yeah, so that's your constitutional crisis, right?
That is a constitutional crisis.
Here's the thing that I hope, and I'm working to make this happen. So we have great podcasts. Your podcast. Not everybody can be a Joe Rogan, and we can't just all be looking at national news. What has happened at a local level is radio stations they all got bought up. They're all, consolidated. No one has local programming anymore. There's almost no local newspapers, even local television stations. They're all going away. Now is the time to create a podcast for your town, your burg, your city, your community.
Wasn't Gavin Newsom doing that like right after the election? Didn't he start a podcast?
Well, I don't know about Gavin Newsom. That's not.
I think he did. I think that was their idea to try to combat the podcasts like this.
We don't need that. We need local voices. All the advertising locally has been slurped up by Facebook. That's where you advertise. I've started a local thing in Fredericksburg, and people really love it. They oh, wait a minute, there's something going on in Fredericksburg, and all they have is Fredericksburg Rant and Raves on a Facebook page. Will you imagine what a mess that thing is? It's crazy. That's no good. Rants and Raves, no, that's no good. And so I started a thing called Godcaster.fm, and it's tailored towards helping radio stations do this, but I think churches are content factories, and they're not just all talking about Jesus and God. They're doing stuff in the community. That's what churches used to do, and they're doing stuff at the high schools, and you got kids in there. And I want 1,000 podcasts, within a year all over America of local people, and it's so easy to do now. It's become so possible, and I think the local communities will even sponsor it. That's the next level. That's my phase 2. That's the next level we have to get to, is where people just get a microphone, talk to your city council person. This is nuts. All it is national news presented by heads on television, and who needs that nonsense?
Right.
You're an exception, and you're really important, but we need to have this at a local level, and it's never been a better. You want to start a podcast and be able to actually make a living out of it in your local community, I guarantee people will support it. I guarantee people will want to be a part of it, and I hope that happens. That's what I'm dedicating myself to now.
That's awesome.
Getting these local, hyper-local podcasts.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is all of it's hopeful, right?
I'm very hopeful, Joe.
Yeah,
of course,
it is.
Of course.
Which is great. I mean, because being cynical kind of sucks. Especially when this really is a very unique time of possibility. There's a lot of things are happening right now.
Yeah, it's a perfect time.
And it also feels like even to the people that didn't want what Donald Trump is doing, the idea to keep going with what was happening before, where you had someone running for president that never went through the primary,
that was constitutional crisis.
But that's a real
right there.
Right.
Yeah,
the soft
course.
coup against Biden, all that. That should disturb you that didn't. Well, it should be good that didn't work, because that's not good for anybody. Because if they can keep doing it that way, then you never have a primary again.
Well, primaries, of course, are up to the party. It's not necessarily a constitutional thing, but that should tell a Democrat, people who vote Democrat and are part of it. I've never been a part of a party. I'm not that interested. I vote for people. But that should tell them something like, there's something bad going on here.
Yeah, there's some shenanigans going on. They could have had a primary.
Like, what was it like in D.C. when you went for the inauguration? Was it just like show business for ugly people? There were 1 million people all over the place.
Million people all over the place. It was packed.
Was it nuts?
It was nuts. It was weird.
Weird.
I did a lot. Yeah, very weird. Because I went to a lot of these things. I went to a few of these things, like these dinners and stuff, balls.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of people that donated a lot of money. And so it's very transactional, and everybody's hyper aggressive to get photographs and talk to people. And they interject themselves into conversations, interrupt, stand right in front of people that you're talking to, and want pictures or want to introduce themselves. And it's very entitled and very transactional, but I think that's always been the nature of politics, particularly when people. The reason why they were there is because they donated a substantial amount of money.
$1 million bucks a pop, and you're good to go.
Which is nuts. Like how did this many people have $1 million to donate? This is crazy.
Amazing, isn't it?
Amazing.
A lot of people got $1 million bucks. It's like,
I know.
It's all that USAID money.
I don't know what it is, but it's
well, there are a lot of successful people in the world who have that, who can access that kind of cash. But wow,
but there's a lot of hope. It was a very positive, obviously, because the winners were all there. But it was a very optimistic vibe, which felt good. And even the speech when he gave his inauguration speech, I mean, that was pretty fucking wild.
I love the black pastor from Detroit.
Yeah.
He was channeling MLK. He was just like going crazy.
Yeah.
It was when you were sitting maybe like 5 rows behind Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. Did you smell sulfur?
I smelled everything. I saw Bill and made eye contact with Bill. Me and Bill staring at each other for a while.
He's larger than life, even though he's kind of frail now. I mean, he still is.
Well, it's just
kind of
odd
an imposing
that they're
guy.
in the room with you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's a different kind of a celebrity. Like
Was it-
just, like I remember when I went to see the Rolling Stones at Coda, I was blown away. I'm like, Mick Jagger's right there. Like
Yeah.
that's actually him, and he's dancing to "Button Your Lip."
and he's this big. His
Yeah.
butt's that wide.
He's a stick.
Yeah.
But he's
crazy.
right. He has 2 trailers that he brings with him that are just a gym.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me.
2 of his he works out every day.
What is he, like 78?
He's 1,000 years old.
And he had
Yeah.
open heart surgery
Yeah.
and all. I don't know if
Like
it's open
recently.
Heart. Yeah, yeah.
Like recently had heart surgery.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. Really, truly is.
Just fucking loves it, man. And they put on a fucking hell of a show. But my point is, like, that's one of those things you're like, I can't believe that's really him. And that's what it's like when you're like looking over there. You're like, holy shit, that's George
Now,
W. Bush.
Do you think it was the real Biden or the Daddy Longlegs Biden?
I think it was the real one.
Okay.
I think.
Because you've seen the Daddy
Yeah,
Longlegs
he
guy,
wasn't
right?
too tall. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like,
that one
what?
guy was nuts.
And he's jogging to the helicopter. I'm like, no.
Yeah, nuts. Like, I want to know the story about that. Like, is there any paperwork on who that guy actually was?
I'd love-
'Cause that was
well,
not Joe Biden. That's a guy with a mask on.
The mask things are real. I can tell you.
Real.
I can tell you this from family
TikTok.
from family experience.
You can see them online. Oh, from family experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
In 1967, let's just leave the family members out of it. But someone brought home a colleague from work, and the colleague had dinner and had coffee, and then at dessert, the wife was sitting there, had been talking to this person, and then this colleague took off his mask, and it was someone who the wife knew extremely well and had no idea. 1967.
Whoa.
So imagine what they can do now. The stuff that CIA lady shows on the YouTube video,
Yeah.
I think that's just old. I mean, it's amazing. 67, that stuff already existed and worked.
How come they couldn't get somebody Biden's height?
You know, Tina says that too. I said, you know, they just didn't care at that point. Just like they needed someone who had his cadence, which I think is harder to do, to be kind of, you know, like that stumbling, bumbling.
Also, like, how many people do you bring this to? Like, you know,
And what
you
is that guy doing now? He needs a
Right.
podcast.
That guy's dead.
He's got no.
That guy's at the bottom of the ocean.
What gig does he
They
have
took
now?
that guy fishing.
I hope not, but
Yeah.
it's possible. Yeah. So there's
Who knows?
There's a lot of that going on. I mean, we've spotted throughout the years. Hillary Clinton had. I know she had a double. And it was actually women who noticed it. Like, she's carrying her handbag on the other shoulder. It's like no woman switches that up. That never happens. And you look at her like, yeah, she does look a little different.
But it's also, isn't that a mind fuck though? Because then you start looking at everybody like, that's not the real one.
Are you Joe Rogan?
Yeah. Who's it? What happened? Who is it?
It's pretty crazy stuff.
It
yeah.
is.
I hope some of that comes out too. But, you know, it would be great to know these things. I mean,
It would be great to stop lying.
Yeah, yeah.
You should stop
Basically-
lying.
basically.
You should not have a fake. I mean, is there some sort of national security explanation that you could give for why you would have to have a fake president?
Well, I mean, holy moly! Have you ever seen the Kevin Kline movie?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there it
Yeah,
is.
Wag the Dog.
There's your. Was it no? Not
no,
Wag the
the other
Dog.
one.
Dave.
Ah,
Dave.
right,
yeah.
right,
Dave.
right, right.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, sure. I mean,
Yeah.
this happens all the time. These things.
Bizarre.
Yeah, and who knows, you know? But again, season of reveal. We're learning things. We won't learn everything, but we will become a lot wiser. I'm convinced of it, and I'm excited. I am 60 years old and super excited and very bullish on the future.